Hi, hello, and welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the Rolling Nomads for this spooky season one shot of Tremulus by Sean Preston. This is a game that I'm very close with, very near and dear to my heart, and we are so excited to tell you a 1930s noir spooky tale. Now, Tremulus is a game that can comprise of everything from up to very Lovecraftian Call of Cthulhu elements, all the way down to a gritty supernatural horror like 13 Ghosts or The Ring. So, without any further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce myself first for once. Hi, I'm Avery at Avery DuBois on all the social media platforms. I'm a partnerships manager right here on the Rolling Nomads. You can catch me in games such as Berlin Bloodlines, where I play Unser Gnädiger Edgar Waite. You can also catch me in Of Bane and Blood as everyone's favorite old man Gale Stalker Philodox since the Sweetwater. I hope you enjoy this one shot, and the people who are bringing you all of this enjoyment will start to go ahead and go around, starting with the man, the myth, the legend, David Gagnon.
Hello, everybody. David Gagnon here. You can find me over on Twitter at DG the Nomad. I am the production supervisor here at the Rolling Nomads. I play a part in helping get all these things on the air. I am also the dungeon master and host for our D&D game Colder Than a Twitch's Wit. And I make pretty regular and random appearances on a lot of other things, one shots and many things like that. But yeah, that is me, kind of all over the place.
Hi, um, I am the Rolling Nomads founder's mother, Dawn Mama Ramos. Most people get really weirded out when they say Dawn, so Mama Ramos is acceptable. I am super excited to be here and venture into a different game other than vampire or werewolf, which are my passions.
Hello, everybody. I'm the Azure Butterfly, Azure for short, or simply Rachel. You can find me over at the AzureButterfly.ttv. You can also find me at my social medias at _Azure Butterfly or the Azure Butterfly on TikTok. I am Maria Russolini, Berlin Bloodlines, Ingrid of Sintra and Witcher Ways of Old, and so many other characters. Forward to you meeting my Hannah Ackerman in the next prologue of Bane and Blood. Yeah.
Well then, without any further ado, let us begin our foray into this scenario. To sleep, if not to dream. A Tremulous Tale by the Rolling Nomads. As we begin to scope in, the camera sort of flying through a dense fog of the early morning in New England, 1930. Prohibition is still in a great swing. You know, it has been 11 years since the Volstead Act, and prohibition still remains popular, although the imbibing of alcohol certainly hasn't died off either. The world is in a state of flux. But what is not in a state of flux, however, is the need for a medical professional. As the camera begins to enclose upon this office that you maintain, Doctor, tell me what we see from the outside.
Well, this is really a simple building. I didn't want it to be too flashy or to come across as too high class, I suppose, for my regular clientele. So it's a rather, I would say, plain-looking storefront. A two-story building. The first one with the office where I conduct my work, and then this upstairs where I sleep and live.
And as we pan in, the plate glass door opening for the camera, would you mind introducing yourself, Dr. Dylan Barker?
Yes. So Dr. Dylan Barker is a man who wears typically a worn suit or something of the nature. It's practical, but perhaps his interests in upkeeping appearances are elsewhere. His face is round and adorned with a glorious mustache, his eyes sharp but curious, and his build is pleasantly plump.
And as we become familiar with Dr. Barker, your patient today, Dr. Barker, is a regular, but this isn't a routine visit. Her name is Stacy Moore, and she has come to you today with several shards of glass embedded in the palm of her hand. You've already begun to do the difficult work, but you are still mid-task. As she holds her hand out to you, says, I'm really sorry to bug you this early in the morning, Doctor. It's just
Not at all. That's
They-
what this office is here for.
late evenings, and the work I do can get a little well, you would normally say out of hand, but today I'll say in my hand.
Yes, yes. Well, next time, perhaps stay a little further away from the glass windows.
Oh, well,
As best you can.
it's not every day that we get a brick through the front window of the shop. Doctor, that Stacy is a seamstress by trade. Why someone would be throwing a brick through the front window of a seamstress's shop is strange. What I would like you to do is go ahead and make your roll for your office. How long do you think you've been active here at this office?
I would imagine that I've been here for a couple of years. Enough to have a comfortable station here with regular clientele. I would say well established, not like from the beginning kind of deal, but I think 2 to 3 years or so is a reasonable amount of time.
Then what I will have you do for me is I will have you go ahead and roll me 5d6 to add to your wealth.
Understood. So I got a 6 and a 1. We're sitting at 7.
And for everyone watching, this is a part of the special move for the Doctor, which is the office. It gives you additional wealth to start the game, and we'll get into wealth and what wealth is spent on very soon.
Plus a 12, so 16.
Perfect. So you've been doing relatively well for yourself. I mean, do you live alone? Are you? So is there maybe a Mrs. Barker in the picture?
Not at the moment. But one can hope. No, I do have somebody. They don't live with me, but an assistant. I believe the term for them now is a druggist, because the term pharmacist hasn't found its way into popularity.
And indeed, what is this druggist called? What is their name? I'm feeling maybe Seymour.
Seymour does sound like a proper name.
We see Seymour in his corner. As he looks over, he says, "It's a mighty strange wound for a seamstress, but such are the times. What are you thinking? Good doctor? Maybe some laudanum, maybe some opium to help the pain swim along."
I think that sounds good. Yes, got to deal with the pain. Especially for the first couple of days. It's especially with your line of work. It's going to be quite troublesome.
And we can't have pain interrupting work now, can we, Doctor?
Not at all. And I've been known to dabble in a bit of opium myself, just to take the edge off sometimes.
Stacy smiles, and you finish the stitch job, and she inevitably ends up heading off about her day after Seymour passes off a few a few small pads of opium for her to imbibe in a nature of her choosing.
Excellent.
Which leaves you and Seymour sitting in the office. He looks over. It's pretty early in the morning for that sort of nonsense, don't you think?
Yes. Also quite odd. I can't think of a reason why someone would want to hurl a brick through the window of a seamstress.
Oh, well, you know, these kids are starting to get strange ideas these days, and I just hope it wasn't the communists.
Oh, no. Communists out here?
You never know,
People.
Doctor. You never know, good Doctor. There's that. The influence of the Reds are spreading across the country.
I don't think they'd make it all the way down yet. Now, Washington, perhaps, but here?
Well, you know what? I say it right now, and maybe it's my little tipper of the good root beer on the way here this morning. But I've got to say, I think one day in this country, they're going to try and take over those Reds. Got to be hyper vigilant.
Do they believe in guns? They know we have guns, yes.
Oh, I do. I think they believe in guns, but listen, good Doctor. I know you were spared because you were in, diapers probably at the time. But I fought in the Great War, and I was over there, and Stalingrad. The Reds came to our aid then, but we can't count on those damn communists.
Well, then we'll have to remain vigilant. But what would they want with a seamstress?
It's at that point that the bell to the door dings, and Harvey Waters, the postman, enters. He's got his postman's attire on, his mailman's bag.
Oh, good day, sir.
Oh. Hello, Doctor. Yes. Seems I've got a bit of post for you. And
Lovely.
he hands you a letter and tips his hat to you and Seymour and heads on his way. And as you look at this letter, it's postage from a town called Bedlam, Delaware. And you see a name that you haven't seen on the front in a very long time, an old childhood friend, Rudolf Eichner.
Curious. Haven't heard from him in so long. I wonder what he could want. And I'll begin to open the letter.
And I will go over this now, and this will be the same with every one of you that we'll see in the future. For many years, you didn't hear from Rudy. When at the crossroads of childhood and being an adult, Rudy kind of disappeared. No one really knew where he went or what happened to him. But in the last few years, he's been writing letters maybe once a year around Christmas. Sending you, the season's greetings and things of that nature. Insofar as about 2 years ago, each of you would have received your Christmas tidings letter from Rudy that also had a photograph of him and his wife, Letitia, someone you've never met before, but you know her by face now. And that they, it was a small wedding in a Catholic cathedral. Strange.
A tad out of season for the letter, though, is it not?
Tad out of season. But with you puzzling upon the fact that it is a tad out of season, we'll go ahead and pan over to the early morning in a dark apartment. Detective. It was a long night last night. You're still working a case. It's a disappearance. And I'm sure the thought has probably crossed your mind. They could have handed this off to the Pinkertons by now. This detective, you're supposed to stay inside of your city instead of your jurisdiction.
This is looking more like a statewide thing.
Starting to look like all the leads here have gone dry, and you may need to pass this up the ladder soon. As it's very early in the morning, but please describe to me, or rather, please introduce yourself, Detective.
So much like the disheveled apartment that she lives in, if anything, nothing more than a small studio apartment sat atop a shop of some sort that they rent out just for space usually, but she's made it her home. Jeanette, Jean, to her friends, is a lithe woman, with a deep suit whose jacket is kind of like strewn about on like one of the chairs nearby, mixing in with some of the paperwork that's just in newspapers that have just scattered across the floor. Very tired eyes, but very pretty face with a hardened expression.
Do you think it would be out of character that perhaps maybe you didn't sleep last night?
Not at all. Not at all. Those tired eyes are, in fact, tired. They have several deep, dark rings in the bags of her.
And I think it might be fair to note the shop you live above is Tortorella's Bakery. It is your relationship with the proprietress of that shop. You don't even know her first name. You've always just known her as Mrs. Tortorella. She's advanced in age, in her early 60s. Oftentimes, when these sleepless nights, much as it is tonight, you only realize the transition from night to morning when the temperature in your floor begins to rise slightly, and the smell of baking breads and sweets hits your nose. It's become something of a morning ritual that you'll hear a knock on your door around 5 o'clock, and you hear it again today.
I think as the knock happens, she's at like the little makeshift desk she had in the corner of the studio apartment, face in hands, sighing over this soon-to-be lost contract. And as she hears that, she kind of just like peeks from under her hand, sighs, rubs her eyes, does a little stretch, and then walks over to the door. Is this somebody that I've come to know to expect the same person?
Usually she's not here by the time you get to the door. Usually Mrs. Tutuola's grandson, Finicio, will leave a cup of espresso and some kind of baked good at the door for you. He's about 9 years old. You got him out of a bit of trouble. He was hanging out with some rather rowdy boys, and someone got nicked with a razor. And they were your department wanted you to pin it on Finicio, and you wouldn't do it. And he expresses his gratitude to you by usually bringing you some kind of breakfast.
Jean's gonna open the door and see what's left.
And you do see just the back of Finn's head as he heads around the bottom of the stairs. He tries to run away fast. You're still under the impression that he doesn't know that you know that he leaves you these things. But you see 2 lemon cannolis and a cup of espresso.
I think as she sees the back of his head, like, turn the corner back into the building, she's just gonna smirk. It doesn't reach her eyes. Her eyes are almost unmoving when it comes to expression. but she's gonna reach down and take the offerings. Honestly, take a little bit of a smell of the air outside. She's been like locked away in her little apartment for hours and hours at this point.
I think it's fair to note, how often do you think that Jean really gets a look outside early in the morning?
Not too often. I think the case has left a lot on her mind, so she kind of needs that little bit of a reset in this moment, but usually she's just pick up and go.
As you look out and smell the air, it's not uncommon to have these foggy, damp mornings in New England. In fact, at this season, it's not just the morning, it's usually the entirety of the day that the clouds are thick and the fog tends to linger. But for just a split second, you swear you see someone standing across the street watching you. Before you blink, and whatever you thought you saw is gone. Maybe it was shadowy, maybe it was dark, maybe you've just been working a little too hard and that was just your brain trying to make sense of shapes in the fog.
I feel like for a second there, as she's taking that all in before she sees the figure, it's almost like a calming, exciting kind of sensation that's filling her, because I picture her as being the kind of person that grew up on, certain detective serials that might have been in like magazines or newspapers, and other like stories that would have hit the scene. He loves mystery. I think like a fog is like the perfect balance between serenity and mystery, because you don't know what's past. It's the second that she lingers on that figure that a cold shiver just runs up her spine. Again, her eyes don't change expression, her lips don't even flinch, but she does hurry back in.
Yeah. With your cannoli and your espresso.
Oh, she's downing that espresso.
Of course, it's Italian espresso, so it's entirely too sweet for my taste. Yes, this is a call out. You begin to feel the energy swell very quickly. It's powerful. You know how Mrs. Tortorella, forgive me. You know how she makes her espresso, and it's good Java. Sort of collecting yourself and having your breakfast and looking around, you hear the mail slot on your door open and something hit the floor. Not heavy, nothing too big.
Not gonna lie, after seeing the figure outside, I think the second that she hears that, her hand goes to the 9mm that's laid on her desk in its holster.
The old trusty. And you see that there's a letter lying on the floor.
She is, just to be safe, because you never know. Safety when it comes to mail slots can be dubious at times if somebody's... So she's going to unholster the 9mm and bring it with her. She goes to pick up the package. That being said, she will go to the side of the door and flip up the slot and see anything.
You see Harry, the mailman, heading down the stairs. And you hear him whistling. You hear him whistling a tune. It is "Every Day Will Be Sunday When the Town Goes Dry." It's a jaunty little tune, just making like talking about man, it's gonna suck when the town's out of booze because it's prohibition.
I think she's gonna let out a sigh, kind of realizing that probably a combination of her paranoia and tiredness, having not slept in so long now, She kind of just, maybe it is starting to get. What's this? He's gonna pick up the.
And you also see it is a letter from your old friend Rudy, Rudolf Eichner.
And then she's gonna go to her desk with it.
And from there, we will pan out once again. And as we scope in on this building, Dawn, describe to me your settings before I ask you to introduce yourself. Where do we find our alienist today?
Most likely tucked into a corner of a library with a stack of books, just poring over them, comparing one theory to another theory and taking notes furiously.
And in this small library, Lillian Freedman. Please introduce yourself.
Well, Lillian Friedman. Female, typically in a tailored suit, fitting the times, consistently black in color. She has a very condescending face, but her eyes are mesmerizing, so it's confusing because you can't quite figure out if she's welcoming or not. She had a very graceful build.
And now I believe we have 2 roles to make for you as we begin.
Yes.
Let us start with, fittingly enough, The Diary of a Madman. Let's start with that. And if you would like to read out that move for our lovely audience.
Diary of a Madman. Maybe studied D6 hours each day. It's a roll plus reason. On a D plus gain, you gain 1 lore. On a 7 to 9, you gain 1 clue. On a miss, you're -1 ongoing for the day. So I would be disturbed in whichever way that my storyteller sees fit.
Absolutely. So go ahead and roll. I believe it's 2d6 plus passion.
16.
16. Well over 10. So, with that being said, the options that you have on critical successes, things over 10.
Okay.
Would you like to ask an additional question? Would you like to carry one forward? Or would you like something else of the storyteller's persuasion?
Let's go with option 3. I'm going to
Okay.
leave it in your hands.
Wonderful. So, you are going to get a clue from that.
Okay.
So, it was a very high roll.
Okay.
And I will go over what that clue is in just a moment. As you study diary, do you think this is maybe perchance something that you purchased from maybe an estate sale, or is this maybe your notes on a previous client who's no longer attending sessions? Maybe their own personal journal of your interactions, because that was very common for alienists in this time. Not only would you keep notes, but you would encourage your client to take notes of the session for you to read so you could understand their observation as well. Or is this some ancient manuscript? Is this something entirely else?
I think because the field is relatively new, she would have stumbled across a journal from someone that was buried in an estate sale. And everybody just thought it was the rantings of their lunatic relative and didn't really care about it. And it just got mixed in with books for sale. And she found it.
Sure.
If that's acceptable.
That is perfect. I think as you flip through it, what you've sort of ascertained up to this point is this man, Charles Piedmont. He was a revolutionary era man. You know, the late 1700s was the time that he was alive. And you've pieced through that the early parts of this diary are relatively, at least as far as your profession is concerned, mundane. Talking about reports of like the battles he was in the American Revolution. Talking about, you know, crossing the Delaware with George Washington. Although the details that you're aware of, some of the details that he purports are inaccurate, so the validity of if he was actually there or not has been called into question. And then it slowly starts to devolve. The timeline starts to get mixed up. Like he's already talked about crossing the Delaware with George Washington, but then goes back on the wrong date and purports in extreme and accurate as to your understanding, the Battle of Antietam. And but it's factual in all of the ways that quote unquote matter, but that's not what interests you. It's that he describes a creature stalking the battlefield at night, dragging corpses away and following it to its den, and this note that Charles Piedmont made that a Baumgartner can only be killed where it sleeps. And what is a Baumgartner? And then following it back and all of this research that you've done, a Baumgartner is in German it is a tree gardener. It is, and it's this German fairy tale that if children were bad, that they would get dragged away by the Baumgartner, who would impale them on the roots of trees so that they would feed the trees as they grow.
Okay.
But like the way he's describing it in this journal, it's like this was all very real to him, which has led you into this deep study of what his delusion is. And then eventually you end up following this stream of logic you have throughout all of these ravings to what you read today, which focuses on something called a Bladergant, a blood haunter, as it were. And these creatures, as he describes hunting them, that they are somewhat insectoid, and that should they attach their proboscis to you, this weird tubular mouth part that ends in fangs like a lamprey,
Okay.
that he purports that these things drink the ability to sleep from their victims. Victims of a Bladergant become unable to sleep. They inevitably they fall into this state of perpetual wakeful dreaming because their body doesn't sleep, but your mind has to go somewhere. And he ends this musing with the idea that what is the point of sleep if not to dream? there must be another reason. And now I
That's
believe we
right.
have a second roll for you to make. If you
We
would like to
do.
describe, if you would like to describe that roll for the audience at home.
This would be for clipping service. I'm going to make a roll plus luck at the start of each session. On a 10 plus, I would again gain 1 lore. On a 7 to 9, gain 1 clue. And it costs 1 wealth each month to maintain.
And we will say that you've already spent your wealth for the month for this.
Okay.
So go ahead and give me that 2d6 plus luck. Or minus in your case.
How would you like to handle that with me with my -2 luck?
So yeah, you roll your 2d6 and subtract 2 from the result.
Oh. Oh, this is gonna hurt. Oh, yeah, well, 6.
6. Anything above a 5 is a success,
Okay.
technically. So
Okay.
you are going to get 1 lore from this.
Yay.
So as you go through your newspaper clippings, you find yourself connecting some pieces. That there is this, through many different testimonial pieces that have been done in newspapers, there's this strange part of northeastern Delaware where people aren't sleeping right.
We're
And
not sleeping right.
they're sleeping, but they're not dreaming. There are whole counties of people who are purporting going to sleep but not dreaming. Not a single soul, not the oldest man or the youngest girl. No one's having dreams. And I think in this moment, being that this is you gaining a point of lore, somewhere deep inside of you, Lillian, you know something bigger is happening here, and the reports of Charles Piedmont might be delusion, but maybe each delusion has some sort of trigger in the real world. And if anything would trigger a delusion about things that suck the sleep out of you, wouldn't it be the inability to dream? As he said, what is the point of sleep if not to dream?
That means we're going monster hunting.
Who knows? And I think at this point, there's a knock at the door of your home.
Frustratedly going to get up and go get that.
As the door opens, you see your mailman, Harold Harry Waters. Ah, well, it's always great to see you, Miss Freedman. Believe I have a bit of post for you here. And he reaches into his mail bag and he hands you an envelope and tips his hat and heads along his way.
Thank you, Harry.
He kind of looks over his shoulder and smiles and waves. Harry, always jovial, always very keen to be about his work. You've never met someone who loves being a mailman as much as this guy. He just, early morning walks. He's fit. He loves it. He may have a face for radio, but he loves his job.
A face for radio is such a classic insult. I love that.
It really is. So she's gonna look down and see who sent what.
And as with everyone else, it is a letter from your childhood friend, Rudolf Rudy Eichner. As you open it, I can now dispense the letter's contents for everyone as we will go back through and decide what we're going to do with that information. Each letter begins with your name and honorific. It says, I know you understand how difficult it is for me to write a letter of this nature. However, I will be glad if I am to be of any comfort with this letter. It is my hope that I will be able to meet you personally to discuss the matter, though I will write it down in this moment so as not to test the tenacity of my memory. My name is Mrs. Letitia Eichner, and I am the wife of your now late friend, Rudolph, or as I used to call him, my handsome Rudy. In all our years of marriage and love, he often spoke fondly of you, and it was a tale from your childhood as we walked in F.H. Montague Park, where he collapsed and my dearest handsome Rudy fell ill. He was not long for the world after that, and truly I hope that he may yet live by the time you arrive. And I am concerned for you all. Rudy and I would like to invite you to our home here in Bedlam, Delaware, so we might convene in friendship in this twilight of Rudolph's life. It is our great hope that we might see you soon. With love, Mrs. Letitia Eichner, Ph.D.
Holy shit. First of all, question. Do you have a text copy of this that I can...
Sure.
Because you know my characters bring this with them.
Oh, yeah, the letter's coming with. For sure.
So as we are still focused in on Miss Freedman, this is the letter as you read it.
Maps. Maps are still a thing.
They certainly are.
We're going to dig in the drawer to find a map because I'm pretty sure she's got one somewhere.
Absolutely. You fan out a map?
Quickly going to check where Rudy is living versus these clippings in northeastern Delaware with the affected people not sleeping.
Precisely at the center of it.
Huh, but okay.
Concerning. And being an alienist, Miss Freedman, there have been many of your colleagues who suggest that it is in the dreaming that the body truly heals itself. As there are multiple schools of thought amongst the alienists, some of them believing that the relationship between the mind and the body is symbiotic, others believing that it is not so. Those who believe that the mind and the body have a symbiotic relationship tend to postulate that it is in the dreaming that the body and the mind mend. So that may leave some validity to this idea that if Rudy hasn't been sleeping, or rather hasn't been dreaming for so long, could have contributed to his falling ill. Something to think about. But now that you have this information, Lillian, what are you going to do with it?
How far away? Well, we're going to make arrangements to go there as quickly as possible.
The arrangements you're making, would you like to go by train? Or you know that one of your other childhood friends, a certain Dr. Parker, seems to have a reliable vehicle?
Of course. In this day and age, one must have a reliable vehicle. As my companion might say, it gives us an edge over the Reds.
What's it like being able to afford a
Phone.
car?
Right.
I mean,
Uh,
it is quite nice, I suppose.
Phones are not a household thing, are a household thing.
Not at this point. However, you could walk to the doctor's office in about 20 minutes. It's just a little John across town.
Gonna take the letter, put it in her purse, clutch, whatever they were called, and do that then. Quickly.
As you head over to the doctor's office. Jean, you now have the contents of this letter. You've read it.
I think he's sitting at her desk while she's reading it, in a very telling of that she's studying it and that she's upset by the contents of it. Her knee is shaking as she's reading it, and there's a slight tremble to her dominant hand, which is right. And she's kind of just going to take a breath. Now, I'm not sure, this is me as a player saying this, I'm not sure about specific terminology. And what I mean is that, is it common practice to call them late husband or your late friend when they're still technically alive?
I was wondering that as well, actually.
No. It certainly implies a certainty to their doom. That is generally frowned upon, even in this era.
That feels a little strange to me, and I feel like that would feel a little strange and be poignant to my character, that something may not be right here with this. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Like, is that okay for me to, like, for my character to, like, take a note of? Because that is very strange.
Right.
Especially with someone who is claiming to love. Would you not love to hope that they would pull through, you know?
I would tend to agree.
Yeah, late. When I heard late, first thing popped into mind was past tense.
Mm-hmm.
Truly.
So,
And
exactly.
that would be the proper approximation of the term.
With that in mind, is this person someone we would have known Rudy have married? Would Rudy have invited us or told us about them?
He didn't invite anyone, but he did send a photo of the two of them being wed about 2 years ago around Christmas time.
Well, I think in that case, and with this case that she's currently on about to run dry, there's nothing more that she can do with her jurisdiction over this. The chance to see potentially Rudy again is slightly uplifting. And, you know, she's deducing that if she received this letter, she's not the only one. So a chance to see, like, friendly faces is a nice, welcome change of pace for her. And I think she kind of realizes that, though the mystery now with this letter and the impending doom of Rudy at the same time, bringing back that chill. And even with Prohibition, how hard would it be for me to have a flask with...
We've already alluded to it, but we do... Let's clarify for the audience that our good detective is in a bit of a financial insecurity, you might say. And I think it could be totally fair to estimate that the cause of that is that getting into a speakeasy and getting some booze is pricey. And so I think that one of the few commodities you might have, and it certainly isn't anything reputable, but a little flask of white lightning from them West Virginia hills might not be out of the question.
And I'm thinking this is like one of those, like, really, like, disheveled like boot flasks stuff that you would
Something that would slip into the false bottom of a shoe.
Yeah.
Something of that nature.
Exactly. So I think she's gonna pull that out, take a pretty big swig of it, and then
Goes down like gasoline, comes back up like fire.
oh
You
yeah,
know the
she's
drill.
smacking her hand on that fucking desk as she takes it down, and then she's going to slip it back into its place on her person before pulling out a writing utensil and a piece of paper, because she's going to make a quick little letter to Mrs. Portarella and what was the boy's name?
Finicio, but he goes by Finn.
Finn. To Finn, saying that she's going to be gone for a couple of days. And I would assume this is not like the first time she's done something like this, where like she'll just leave with a letter without an actual word. She's not good with goodbyes at all. And you know, given everything this world kind of shows you, like especially in a profession where you're going against criminals who, you know, would have intent to kill you if you uncovered a lot of their shit, like you never know if you're going to come back. This isn't, while she doesn't feel like she's not going to come back from this one, it's kind of just habit for her, I guess.
Sure.
So yeah, she's going to pen a little farewell, and that she'll hopefully be back a couple days. And then as she's going to strap on her holster. I'm thinking it's an over-the-shoulder holster.
Sure.
Flip on her jacket. Pocketing the letter. She's gonna take that with her. That's already a clue, something going on, and then go down. Kind of like leave her apartment door. I'm figuring it's kind of like one of those ones where it's like almost like a pseudo fire escape entryway, where it's like just like a metallic staircase.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
where
it goes around the side of the building.
yeah. Gonna go down and then slip the letter under the door to the storefront, and then
You go to slip the letter under the door, and the door opens, and a wizened old Mrs. Tortorella looks at you. Darling, your face. Why your face dark?
I haven't been getting a lot of sleep. Honest. You know how it is.
Too much espresso. Need sleep, and she pats the top of your head. Maybe cigarette help you sleep. And she tucks a cigarette in your mouth and tucks one in her mouth and lights them both.
I figure this is probably like a common occurrence.
Anytime she catches you, you're getting fawned over for sure. And I think as a detective, it's certainly not out of the question for this to have maybe crossed your mind. You've never heard hide nor hair of Finn's parents. Of course, he lives with her. She tells stories about her husband who's been dead for like 30 years. Strange. And you're thinking there might be something to that. Something to the way that she kind of pours over you.
I think that realization is why she kind of let Mrs. Tortorella do this to her. Especially for the fact that she's, you know, with the pittance of money that she makes, allowing her to stay up there. I assume a lot of their relationship more developed after she.
For sure. And I mean, I think it all definitely started with she put an ad in the paper for this space, and when you came and looked at it, what she told you the rent was that when she needed to take herself or Finn to a doctor's appointment, that you would watch her cat. That's the rent, is you watch her cat sometimes, and she lets you live up there.
Now, this is something I'm about to ad lib. Okay. Is Finn? Like if I look over Mrs. Tortorella's shoulder, is Finn there?
Yeah, you can see him. You can see him putting some oven mitts on and opening the oven to pull out what looks like pan dulce, a sweet bread, usually with chocolate or vanilla beans mixed through it. It's.
I love bakeries. You're making me hungry. I can smell it right now. So I think as she's taking a drag on that cigarette, which I also feel is going to help drown out the smell of alcohol in her. She's gonna say to Mrs. Tortorella, I left you a note, but I am going to be gone for a few days on business, so I will not be here.
Leave the notes. I don't read English too good. Finicio, he read them to me.
Can I give Finn something really quick?
And you hear Finn kind of hollering at the cat, and you look over, and the cat is kind of scampering across some shelves.
Oh,
And
okay.
Mrs. Tortorella leans her head in. Just, Finicio! No yelling in the bakery. Makes the bread bad. Lonely love in the bakery. Bakery makes the goods good. She kind of tweaks her cheek. Go give him what you want.
Jean is just thinking in her head, I would kill for this woman.
You see, Finn is still chasing the cat with an oven mitt in his hand, just swinging it at the cat. Get out of here! Get out of here! You're not supposed to be in here. Then he turns. Hello?
Hey, Finn. Hey, holding up.
I'd be a lot better if Cicero would stay out of the kitchen.
Yeah, that's cats for you. But hey. It means
He
there's
keeps
less...
He keeps getting hair in the muffins. You can't have cat hair in your muffins.
I think that is probably the first, like, one of the few instances just hearing Finn make, like, jokes, like, not even jokes, but like, like, obviously, but it's a crack in her mask, if you will, and she actually does smile, and she's gonna kind of, because he's like 9 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she's gonna kneel down, she's gonna say, hey kiddo, I ain't gonna be here for a couple of days. I gotta go take care of some business. You know how it is. But
You
I want-
taking down some bad guys?
she wants to say not this time, but then she thinks back to the letter, and I don't know. That's what I'm going to find out. But
Are you gonna
gotta.
shoot him? Are you gonna shoot him with your gun?
She's just gonna like peek over. Like, is Miss Tortorella like looking at us right now?
You can tell she's trying to listen in, but with the sounds of the street and in the town truly waking up, you're pretty sure her hearing's not that good.
She's just kind of like, not like in a direct like saying hell yeah, but she's like, you know how it is sometimes. Maybe I need to, maybe I don't. And as she says it, she's gonna kind of like rest a hand on her hip and let like the grip of her gun show from its
Eyes go wide. He says, "You're just like La Fantoma."
precious. But hey, I got a job for you. Okay?
Do I get a gun? Can I shoot somebody?
Maybe once you get a little bit older, I'll teach you how to shoot. But for right now, I just need you to make sure that the place stays safe. So does Grandma, right? As far as I know.
Yeah. I can do that.
Yeah,
I tell you what, though, Cicero's the bad guy. I'm gonna have to shoot him. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't shoot a cat.
yeah, you're a good kid. But hey, Here's a little something for you. This was my dad's before he died. So I want you to look after it until I get back, okay? She's gonna pull out what was her dad's badge from the police force.
Takes it in his hands. Kind of rubs his thumb on it. Opens his little jacket and sticks it in the breast pocket.
There, now you're looking official.
Kind of like stretches the jacket a little bit. And you hear Mrs. Tortorella come in behind you. Okay, now we have to get the bread ready for the people coming for the suppers.
Yeah, I won't
Shoo,
keep you a minute
shoo.
longer.
You have 2 left hands when it comes to baking. She kind of tweaks your cheek a little bit and hurries you out the door.
Yeah, I think she's gonna ruffle Finn's hair a little bit and then head out.
And with that slight delay, I assume both of you heading to the doctor's office. The two of you approaching from opposite ways. Yeah, good detective and our good alienist. You see each other approaching the doctor's office.
Lillian, that you?
Oh, she's gonna look up from the letter. She's kind of been studying it while she walked. Oh, Jean. Hi.
How you been?
Oh, I was okay.
Still
I was
doing
okay.
that brain stuff, yeah?
Yeah, still doing the brain stuff.
How's that working out for you?
It's good for me. It's fascinating. Keeps me going. How are you? You look tired.
I feel how I look. It's been a long time. It's been a long past couple weeks, but it's good to see you.
Couple
I guess
weeks. How long has it been since you slept?
10,000 yard stare for like 3 to 4 seconds. He doesn't remember.
I think in that moment it is fair to say that Seymour and Dylan have their planned smoke breaks when they come outside.
Oh yes, it's good for the heart.
And as Seymour hears this conversation about the sleep, he lights his cigarette and holds the lighter out for the good doctor. He says, you know, if you're feeling tired, miss, there's a new something I'm playing around with, and I've taken to calling it amphetamines.
You and your miracle cures. Do you prefer the classic cocaine? We have that.
Of course, if you're looking for something to smooth out the transition, something mellow, something not quite as active to get your energy up, we can definitely go with the tried and true Peruvian marching powder.
But that's not going to help her sleep. That's going to keep her awake more.
I mean,
you want to sleep? We've got things for that too.
I think we have more pressing business, guys. I assume I'm not the only one that got this letter. She's gonna, like, from her jacket pocket, pull out the letter that she received.
Oh, we were just talking about that.
Got hers in her hand, just waving it. I got one.
Reach into my pocket.
I figured it would have been.
Well, don't I feel out of the loop?
What? Because the letter would have been sent to the same place. Here at this address. Perhaps there was one at your house, but you're here.
You're right, I should go check. And he heads off. Seymour just waves goodbye.
That's some interesting company you're keeping there, Dr. Dylan.
Oh, he's quite reliable, really. He does love his amphetamines, but he knows his stuff.
Sensei, oh god. Yeah, so each of us got a letter. I assume we all read it, otherwise why are we here? I don't believe in coincidences.
I'm here because I work here and live here.
She's just kind of like thumbing towards Lillian. And-
Well, okay, Rudy's not that old. How old is Rudy? Rudy is not that old.
Roughly your guys' age. He's only like 20, maybe 26. He was a little older than you all growing up, but he looked out for you guys.
Hey, the candle that burns twice as bright lives.
Oh. Brutal.
And needs twice as many amphetamines.
Why is she talking about, testing the tenacity of her memory like she's 60? All of their years of marriage, they've been married a whole 2 years.
So I'm not the only one that thinks something's not right with these letters.
And why are we talking about the comfort, her late husband, but we're supposed at the twilight of his life? What? This makes no sense.
Yeah.
Quite odd. She mentioned he fell ill, but no mention of symptoms.
Not to mention the quite ominous use of the fact that of calling him late.
Yes.
Our late friend, when
That struck me as quite odd, yes.
he's not quite gone yet. But I assume all of us are going to go.
Well, naturally.
I wanted to see if you were going.
We shouldn't tarry.
Not at all. I've already packed.
I got everything I need. He's gonna just kind of like do that jacket shift hand on hip.
Ah, yes. The negotiator.
Good thing I packed extra undergarments.
I do have a
Yes.
little suitcase. It's gonna, because I just realized the gear that I have is a little too big to be just on one body. So she's got like, it's not tall, but it's a really long suitcase. It's probably about like this.
Like a guitar case.
Yeah, like a guitar case.
Will it fit in the car with all of our bags?
That's the only bag I brought. So
So
yeah, I imagine, because I imagine what you have in the boot. You got a spare tire, a jack, and the traditional 3 cans of gasoline.
And then I have one, like my regular suitcase, and then a bag of medical supplies that I would just be bringing with me.
Yeah, you certainly have room.
Excellent.
It might be a little cramped in the back seat with the guitar case, but it'll be all right.
Oh yes, we can make it work.
right.
So, Lillian, I do have to ask, did you bring the map?
It's in the small bag she's carrying
Perfect. Then
with all the sedatives.
we can begin to move in that direction. It's nearly a full day's drive from where you are to Bedlam, Delaware.
Can I say that during the drive is when my Jean is gonna take a massive power nap.
Sure. And it's strange, Jean. As you sleep, you dream. Whatever it is you dream about, I don't think the context of it much matters.
It's a cacophony of things. She doesn't sleep as often, so she has a lot in her mind. So I would assume it's like one of those dreams that's constantly shifting stages.
And until it comes to a point where you feel like it should shift stages. Just black. No dream. The feeling of existing in a dreamlike state, but no stimuli. whispers in the void. Nothing more.
I feel like just kind of floating in the void is almost unnervingly calming until she hears the whisper. And then, would you say that would be a good point for her to just kind of like jar awake?
I think you get the impending feeling of pressure, like when two objects are moving closer to each other in the water, like the space between you and whatever is coming towards you is becoming smaller and smaller by the second, like you're being crushed by the spiritual pressure of something else before there's a small like stone in the road that you hit as you drive, Doctor, and you awake suddenly with this feeling of impending dread.
There's actually like a look of like shock in the moment. She's gonna kind of just like, she's looking around now, just like not like darting her head, but like doing like subtle movements like one does when they're trying not to be noticed too much. Before she reaches into her boot, pulls out the flask.
And you can see that the sun setting in the west behind you. You can see the town of Bedlam out before you. It's a decent sized town, not quite big enough to be called a city, but several, open air parks, houses. There's a small university here. It's one of those northeastern Delaware coastal towns. You can see the ocean from here. Smell the brine on the breeze. This is where you find yourself. Feel free to have any amount of conversation as you approach.
She's still sipping from her flask a little bit as she sees this, and Jean is gonna... This is a quaint little town.
Yeah, it's quite nice. It's been quite some time since I've been down this way.
Oh, you've been here before?
Many years ago, but didn't stay long.
Well, hopefully we won't have to stay too long here. She's still trying to shake from that dream, I think. Like, puts the flask back in her boot.
Are you still feeling a bit drowsy? Did you want some cocaine about that?
I'm good. I'm good. I got what I need. I know it works for me. I appreciate it though.
Oh, of course.
And as you head down into the town, you see that despite it being the late evening, there is still some amount of life about the streets. People walking around. And it's at this point that I will call for my first roll of the game, I think, from each of you.
Like first gameplay related role that didn't have us like roll for this thing. So yeah, pretty interesting.
I will go ahead and call for poke around roll. As you're kind of driving through the streets, it'll be a roll, your 2d6 plus your luck.
Which for me, because
Why
of
do
my
you hate me?
because of my methodical, I can use my roll plus reason.
Yes, if you have a move that alters what your poke around is, then you may apply that.
Oh.
But if not, it is 2d6 plus your luck.
Okay, so
yeah, I do, but not in this case.
so my it is
I rolled a
11.
5 on the die.
11? What did
I
you
got
roll?
a grand total of 4.
4?
Because good old -1 in luck.
What is this? What does rolling a 6 mean on one of the die? Is that anything? Does it total matters?
Now, if you roll 2 6s, if you roll a natural 12, let me know.
Sure.
But, Dawn, what did you roll?
I rolled a 3, but I only get a 1 because I have a -2.
Ooh.
Brutal failure.
Yes, well.
So what happens there is, with a result of 1, you see something that you're not supposed to see, and we'll get to that in a second.
Oh, hey.
So maybe it's the bit of snuff you just took up the nose, Doctor, but you're just driving about at this point and having a great time doing it.
Sure.
Now, as it
Long
concerns
drive,
our good
but it
detective, as you're driving around town, you're kind of picking out, landmarks and things of that nature. You see the Bedlam Library. You see something that catches your eye from the letter. You see a sign that says F.H. Montague Park.
That's the park that they
That Rudy collapsed in.
Oh, man.
pull over.
All right. In the quickest and safest way possible, I'm gonna pull over to the side of the road.
I think as you're pulling over, Lillian, as the car pulls up to the sidewalk, this strange foggy headedness settles in on you. And you hear the buzzing of insect wings. Flies, maybe? Buzzing in your ear. It's very uncomfortable. I would like you to go ahead and take your first point of shock as kind of rubbing your temples and kind of like looking around for what could be the source of this. See some man in a long black coat and a black flat cap, and as he turns his head and looks kind of back at you, and it's funny, you're sitting in the passenger seat and you see it in kind of the reflection of the glass of the windshield. When they look back, you see like not an eye like men have them. You see a great glossy, like an oil spill, like dark with green gloss in certain places, a multifaceted insectoid eye in a man's face as he looks over his shoulder and then keeps walking.
Is Jean getting out of the car at that point?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like you could say that if you want, like the thing that snaps you out of that is just when I close the door, the car, after I step out.
Or rather, when the door opens and it blocks the line of sight with the thing in the glass of the windshield.
I do have a question though, because it says on any success when I use methodical, which I did, I gain +1 clue.
This is true. You gain +1 clue.
What does that mean exactly?
It means I get to give you a clue for that roll. We'll get to that clue as you go into the park. I'm holding that. I'm holding that in this hand. I'm going to give it to you. I just need you to get to the point where it matters.
So yeah, I think unless people are following, she's just going into the park. So, want to stop her?
Lynn's like, wait, stop, hold it.
Jean does kind of there's like a twitch that she wants to continue on, but she does stop and kind of turn. This is a look that both of you would have known from her throughout the years, where she is just it's her on the case. Her eyes are narrowed a bit more, hyper focused, even with the bags under them still. But she is now looking in your direction.
The man. Did you see the man? There's the man in the black jacket with the black hat and the weird ass eyes. Did you see him?
And she's gonna turn to the direction where Lillian is pointing.
You don't see anyone?
No, I didn't. There's no telltale signs on like the ground area that there is somebody there.
It's the sidewalk.
Okay, look, I'm just gonna spill it. I've been doing research, and this town sits in the middle. It is surrounded by towns where there are a lot of cases of people not sleeping. They're not dreaming. It's affecting them all. And this town sits right in the center of it. I have been studying a journal I found at an estate sale by what everyone thought was a madman, talking about creatures that take away your ability to sleep. They're insect type creatures. There was just a man who had not normal eyes. He looked like a giant bug. But this town sits in the center of it. And I can't, in all good conscience, go into this without telling you guys this. And I know you're going to think it's crazy because I am off on my own little train of studying minds, which everyone thinks is just not normal. So I fully understand that you guys aren't okay with what I do with my life right now, but this is important. This could be the epicenter of what is happening.
Really quickly, I just need to know. Doctor, how invested are you in this conversation?
Definitely paying attention.
Okay.
I don't know if there was actually a bug man standing there, but I do know that I do know that Lillian has been like very consistent and reliable over the years, and if something is upsetting her, then it's definitely something worth looking into at the very least.
Good detective, how invested are you in this conversation?
Admittedly, she's wondering if Lillian has partaken in any of the good doctor's amphetamines when it comes to some of this. But I think because of their past relationship, and just even if she doesn't fully believe what's going on, or even what Lillian is like learning into, she can't ignore something, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? She may not fully believe anything. There's got to be a reason or or a different explanation for what's actually going on here. She's very skeptical, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. But she will.
Then I would like both the doctor and our good detective to give me a roll plus reason to puzzle it out.
Okay.
Reason. 9.
Roll plus reason coming right up.
Pause really quick. Also, for your big roll that you did, that what was it, 11 or 12?
11.
Would you like to carry one forward, ask me another question, or have something of the GM's prerogative?
I'll have something of the GM's prerogative because I don't have another question.
Sounds good. All right, I'll hold on to that. What did you roll, David? I'm sorry.
I rolled a total of 9. Now, just for clarity's sake, I would imagine this has nothing to do with causes of death or anatomy-related things.
No.
So, okay, then that, because I get a +2 to those, but that does not apply here. So 11.
So both of you have 9s, or rather, an 11 for the good doctor.
No, sorry, mine is 9.
Got it.
The bonus that I mentioned does not apply here.
Heard. Okay, so 2 9s. This is what the two of you can gather. 1, it's strange to hear crazy shit like this come out of a person that you know for a fact is not insane in any way, shape, or form. You can very easily puzzle out that your friend Lillian, the good alienist, is wholly in her right mind as far as your expertise can determine. 2, you can also puzzle out that she doesn't appear to be lying to you. If whatever she's saying she saw, she believes at the very least she saw it. This isn't some sort of flight of fancy. I will rest with that.
Well, whatever it is, Lillian, I may not understand just yet, but I do trust your opinion. Or at least I trust that you believe what's going on, and that's enough for me for that. But we still need to find some more details about what's going on here, and I would like to get a look in the park, with or without both of you.
You're not going alone.
Oh, yes. A graveyard or a park at night? In a strange town? Like, no.
Walking bug people? No.
It is night, by the way. I might have missed that.
It's beginning to go. I would say it's solidly dusk.
Okay.
You have about 45 minutes of daylight left.
I'd go as far as to say this is when she works her best.
So, as you head into the park, kind of absorbing the atmosphere, it's pleasant. There are several fountains. You can see that there's a small field where there's been a net put up for the locals to play badminton. It's cute. It's quaint. It's that lure to a town that is it being like just too big to be rural, but still having that rural mentality. It's charming. That's the word I'm looking for. It's charming. And the thing that distracts you from that charm as you walk, Detective, is turn your head and kind of look and you catch the glint of something in the last rays of the sun in the grass. Some metallic thing. And as you approach, as was common in this period, when you graduated from a school, you would get like a metal pin, an enamel pin that you would like pin on the lapel of a jacket or something. And you find the lapel from the high school you all went to. Must have fallen off of Rudy's jacket. He's the only one who, almost 100 miles away. He's the only person who could have come from here. I mean, surely it would be too big of a coincidence that there would be another graduate of the same school you went to. And as you look, kneel down and pick it up, you see that one of the roots of this tree has begun to press up through the ground. And it looks like, for a moment, one of the knots, it looks like an eye opens, shuts. Has to be the sleep. There's no way that was real.
I'm gonna touch it.
Oh.
I'm gonna reach out because that's a lot. I gotta make sure I'm still awake. Is that actually what I saw, or like, is my mind just playing tricks on me? I'm a detective. I can't just leave anything to speculation. I gotta.
Do you reach out and touch it? Wood. It has to be the light playing tricks on you. And in fact, as you reach out and touch it, you feel inside of this little knot an object, smooth. And what you thought was an eye must have been the light glinting off of a button from a jacket. Sort of brown and has a leather exterior to it. The leather has been stitched in a little X pattern across the button. Very popular.
Kind of rubber. She's gonna grab it and rub it. Second. I don't know. Maybe it's a pseudo order mentality that's kind of kicking in after like picking up everything that might have a clue or some kind of possible minuscule connection to anything. She's gonna pocket it along with, but not the lapel pin just yet, because I think it's then that she's gonna stand up and she's gonna say, "This is something I found on the ground here. I guess it makes sense that it would be here considering what we read in the note, but you both recognize this."
Oh, of course.
What did you put in your pocket?
A button. It was just on the ground. I might be something, it might be nothing, but I always figured it's better to take with you. She's gonna pull out the button, kind of just show it off.
Doctor, I think it's worthy to note that perhaps maybe you might feel as your expertise is the least needed here. Would you tend to agree?
I think so. The
And do you
anatomy
think
of buttons.
Do you think
seldom
the
used.
doctor has what I think we'll call a roaming vision of focus? Do you think that would be fair to say?
I would say so. Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it.
You can see that on the, there's a little about chest height hedge that kind of runs around the edge of this fenced park.
Mhm.
You can see that there are a few townies that have kind of stopped on the sidewalk and are now kind of regarding you all as they smoke their pipes, and they're just kind of watching what you're all up to at this point. It's not often that people come in from out of town, much less come in from out of town for anything other than the university, which is not where you're at. So you can certainly puzzle out without even needing a roll. You're being regarded with a certain amount of suspicion by the townsfolk.
Perhaps it would be best if we conclude our business and move on.
What do you mean?
Seems we're garnering some attention.
We're not doing anything.
I always garner attention, but
Oh, I find it kind of odd. Just random groups of people stare at me. It makes me feel weird.
are you pointing any of them out, or like,
It's
or at
just
least
kind of
nodding
more-
into?
Nodding in the general direction.
Yeah, then I think Jean is to look in one of the directions. The kind of like,
You see the townies, their sense of fashion of these people seems to have not really updated since the 1910s. Tweed jackets, vests, button-up shirts with no ties, flat caps, slacks, loafers.
I mean, solid choice.
Very much rocking that frog and toad aesthetic that I love so much.
I would assume like this sort of look is something that Jean is kind of used to, considering
Where
how she has
you
to
all
get her.
live up north, it's a little updated, but this this
I
is
meant
a
like
little coastal town.
I meant like the looks we're getting. Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're used to people regarding seeing a woman do what you do with some amount of suspicion at the very least.
I mean, on top of that, like, and seeing anybody get their hands dirty in like the weirdest way at like crime scenes, like even just picking around in garbage and shit like that is something not usually.
Yeah, that's a little strange from the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
Although the idea that this has been notated as a crime scene is, I don't think, entirely fair. Like that the idea of a crime scene didn't exist really at this point.
That, and we can't really say that there was a crime that was committed here.
That is the other half of it, yes. Just someone collapsed here, that's all.
So, Jean, do you need more time to study the area?
Gonna stand and kind of do like another little like cursory glance around like the area that they're in, thing like popping out to her or anything of note.
Do you look around? Quite literal last ray of sun. Not really. I mean, this to be in the park after dark is scandalous at the very least. That is decidedly when people outside of the projected social norm get up to their activities of passion is usually in parks after dark. So two women and a man coming out of the park after dark certainly has its implications in this time period.
With a mustache like this, can I blame them?
That is the question. Yeah, you guys are free to do as you wish at this point. Just knowing the context of the situation, I feel, is key. So.
You know, Jean's gonna just continue to say, I think I have what I need. We should probably head out.
Okay, because I can go entertain them if you need more time.
No, I don't think there's...
We haven't done one of... Oh, those are so fun.
No, I don't think I need anything more here. Or at least I don't think the ground is going to tell me anything more than it already has. If anything, time has already washed away any other evidence that would have been here.
Very well. Well then, shall we?
Just that note, there's no, like, bloodstains on the tree, right?
No.
Okay.
If this park wouldn't have been mentioned in the letter, and if Jean wouldn't have made such a good roll and would have spotted the sign for the park, you most likely would have never known that anything off had happened here.
A lot of this, I'll be perfectly honest, as a player saying this right now, is just Jean trying to make sense of the story and kind of like add proof to what was said in the letter.
Sure.
And so you all exit the park.
Of course.
This small group of townies does seem to kind of follow at a distance, trying to kind of get a sense of you, maybe.
Lillian's just kind of, hi, bye.
They say nothing. It looks like a bunch of dour old men smoking their pipes and just being generally nosy. Small town folk.
I'll just more or less tip my hat to them as I get into the car.
And where do you head now that you're in the vehicle?
Well, I would say onward to our destination, to the estate of our dear friend.
And you don't entirely know where good Rudy lives, but enough driving around the town, and you see an iron gate with the name Eichner above it.
Oh, there we are.
See a long gravel drive, maybe a quarter of a mile driveway, that goes to a circular loop with a very large fountain in the middle of it and a huge estate house.
Did Rudy come from money to begin with, or?
No. In fact, you were never under the assumption that he had a dime to his name.
So either he came into money through marriage, or
I think it would stand to reason that your brain picks up immediately, Detective. If he came into money through marriage, Eichner wouldn't be on the gate.
so not married.
And kind of as you pull up to the gate, you see that a man in a suit comes out of the little gatehouse and sort of leans down to the window. Yeah, hello. Name, please.
Good evening, sir. Dr. Dylan Barker. We were here to visit our friend
He
Rudy.
holds up a gas lamp, kind of a little bit close to try and get a look at your face.
And I'll hold my hand up because of the sudden bright light in my face.
All right. You'd see Rudolph. Yeah.
We were summoned. Yeah.
Yes.
And he hangs the lamp at the hook on his belt again and turns to the gate and opens the way and kind of waves you in.
And still blinking, just trying to get my eyes to adjust again, I will start rolling forward.
As you go through and down the drive, you see behind you as he shuts the gate, turns a lock with a key. And there are hedges and topiary animals out here that you can see in the lamplight. All of these. Electricity has been a thing for a while now, but you still see that this whole garden area is lit by oil lamps. And it has a certain... Well, it paints things in a certain light. And as you come to a place where you can stop the car and get out at these huge marble stairs leading up to this gorgeous centennial wraparound porch. That is where we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll see you on the other side. That is who we are. The Hakata. Blood for fucking blood.
Secrets reveal the weakness of the mighty and the sins of the righteous.
The crown of shadows will sit upon the throne of the underworld.
I want to feel Berlin open up, and then I want my mouth filled to bursting with her blood.
Did I do good? Did I do well?
Whatever you wish, Mama. Your will is my will.
You're trying to take something that's mine. I'm taking something from myself for once.
I, Tullio Giovanni, sentence you to death.
Deiner Familie kann man immer vertrauen, oder?
Some nights, when it's late and dark, when you only have candlelight perhaps to inspire your mood, you finished a long day of writing, perhaps you've had a drop to drink, perhaps not. Sometimes in those nights, you stand up and walk over to the mantelpiece where that beautiful knife is perched in display, and you feel deep inside you the desire to hunt.
There was a time a long time ago where people called me Crimson Howler. That's not who I am anymore.
You didn't find me, old man. I am no pup. I know the temptation of wolf. I have hunted it.
Rage good, but not that rage. That rage is bad, and Timber needs it to stop.
I asked you what happened.
The worm and the weaver don't care about the innocent ones.
But we should.
The Shadowbane is going to rip this city apart.
That is who we are. The Hakata. Blood for fucking blood.
Secrets reveal the weakness of the mighty and the sins of the righteous.
The crown of shadows will sit upon the throne of the underworld.
I want to feel Berlin open up, and then I want my mouth filled to bursting with her blood.
Did I do good? Did I do well?
Whatever you wish, Mama. Your will is my will.
You're trying to take something that's mine. I'm taking something for myself for once.
I, Tullio Giovanni, sentence you to death.
Deiner Familie kann man immer vertrauen, oder?
Some nights, when it's late and dark, when you only have candlelight perhaps to inspire your mood, you finished a long day of writing, perhaps you've had a drop to drink, perhaps not. Sometimes in those nights, you stand up and walk over to the mantelpiece where that beautiful knife is perched in display, and you feel deep inside you the desire to hunt.
There was a time a long time ago where people called me Crimson Howler. That's not who I am anymore.
You didn't find me, old man. I am no pup. I know the temptation of wolf. I have hunted it.
Rage good, but not that rage. That rage is bad, and Timber needs it to stop.
I asked you what happened.
The worm and the weaver don't care about the innocent ones.
But we should.
The Shadowbane is going to rip this city apart.
That is who we are. The Hakata. Blood for fucking blood.
Secrets reveal the weakness of the mighty and the sins of the righteous.
The crown of shadows will sit upon the throne of the underworld.
I want to feel Berlin open up, and then I want my mouth filled to bursting with her blood.
Did I do good? Did I do well?
Whatever you wish, Mama. Your will is my will.
You're trying to take something that's mine. I'm taking something for myself for once.
I, Tullio Giovanni, sentence you to death.
Deiner Familie kann man immer vertrauen, oder?
Some nights, when it's late and dark, when you only have candlelight perhaps to inspire your mood, you finished a long day of writing, perhaps you've had a drop to drink, perhaps not. Sometimes in those nights, you stand up and walk over to the mantelpiece where that beautiful knife is perched in display, and you feel deep inside you the desire to hunt.
There was a time a long time ago where people called me Crimson Howler. That's not who I am anymore.
You didn't find me, old man. I am no pup. I know the temptation of wolf. I have hunted it.
Rage good, but not that rage. That rage is bad, and Timber needs it to stop.
I asked you what happened.
The worm and the weaver don't care about the innocent ones.
But we should.
The Shadowbane is going to rip this city apart.
Hello, welcome back, everybody. We took our little tech and bio, and we're gonna get right back into this story. The car has come to rest. The lamps on the porch are lit. It's a beautiful, dark gray centennial home. This is where you find yourselves.
Anybody remember Rudy having this much money?
No. And why did he lock the gate?
That was quite strange, yes. But
It's
I
when you
also
say
don't
that
recall much
your
more.
door opens, Lillian, and the doorman kind of holds the door for you.
Huh. Where did you come from?
Walked up behind the car.
She's making sure he's got normal eyeballs.
He does, and despite his hulking size, he's quite handsome about the face as well. Clean shaven, his kind of short auburn red hair, very, very engaged. You see a lot of eyes in your profession. Are good alienist, and his eyes are very clear and very pretty to look at. That shade of blue that borders on gray.
Mm-hmm. Hello.
Hello. I'm supposed to. Well, for lack of a better term, I'm in charge of the grounds here. And while you're out here on the grounds, you're my responsibility. So let's get you all to the door.
All right.
So, a lot of things happen on the grounds that you have to be responsible for?
I try to limit that sort of activity, Mum. Lots of looky-loos here in town. It's my job to keep them looking and not touching.
Why are there looky-loos?
Can't say. Folks will be folks. Please, let's get you inside.
Yeah, Jeanette's already out of the car and
Right. Do I just
staring
leave
at the
the car?
estate.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say, Doctor?
Right. Do I leave the car here, or is there a designated parking spot?
I'll have one of the other house help take your car to the car garage.
Right.
Lillian's grabbing her bag. Looks like just a small medical bag. Well, not small medical bag, but it's just like a small, I guess, carry-on suitcase for the time.
And so, as you all get out of the car, he kind of leads you up the steps. He says, my name's Rod, Rod Destin. If you need anything, just let me know.
Thanks, Rod.
Right. Where should we bring our bags?
You'll probably be wanting to talk to Constance about your rooming. She's the housemaid. It's usually a sort of responsibility.
Right. Now, where would we find her?
With any luck, she'll be opening the door, sir. And he pulls the rope, and the bell rings. A few moments pass, and the door opens.
Okay.
a woman around your age, dark of skin, beautiful wavy black hair, the warmest chocolate brown eyes you've ever seen in your life. She's in a maid's attire, you know, the black dress, white frock. She says, "Well, hello there. Welcome. Come inside."
Do I recognize this person at all?
No. But Rod or Roderick looks past you and says, "Thank you, Connie. I've got to get back out to the guardhouse."
So you must be Constance.
Smiles. "Why, yes. Miss Constance Jones."
Pleasure. I'm Jeanette Miller.
I well know the lot of you. Mr. Eichner speaks very highly of you.
Are we able to see Rudy?
Well, that would be up to Mrs. Eichner, but I do believe that is the intent.
Right then. Would you mind if we put our bags away and...
Oh, don't you worry about that. I'll make sure your bags get to your rooms.
I'll carry my own, thank you.
If you insist. Smiles and...
I'll bring my medical bag with me. This might be of some use, but I'll leave this here.
Well, if you would not like for me to take care of your lodging and your luggage, let me at least show you to your rooms.
Of course. Gonna follow.
She leads you. I mean, the foyer itself is beautiful. There's a crystal chandelier. The floor in here is a deep, very rich mahogany. The walls inside are these deep shades of reds and browns and golds. It's a warm home. It is inviting. It is comfortable. You see that all of the furniture for sitting is plush and comfortable, and all of the woodwork in the house seems to be finely hand detailed. They just don't make homes like they used to.
Are there any family pictures around where we could see them?
Oh, sure. Yeah. You see that there is a painted portrait of Leticia and Rudy, where it seems that they've been painted in their wedding attire, standing on a cliff overlooking the ocean. In the sunset, it's very pretty. A little bit of an untraditional setting for a wedding painting of this time period, but Rudy's always been a little bit of an eccentric personality. Maybe that was, and he always talked when you were kids about wanting to live by the ocean. So it could be totally left to reason that this is a proclivity all his own. And then you see that there is a photograph of all of the household staff. That they're including Leticia and Rudy, and I will say in this occasion, being that you specifically, and I hate making you make this roll because I know your luck's really bad, but our good alienist, if you would please give me a roll plus luck to poke around looking at this photo.
4. That would be a 4 with the -2, so I had a 6, and then take away the 2.
Photo of everyone who works in this house. You see that Rudy has a kid in his lap. It looks like maybe a toddler. Dark skin, dark hair. Of course, it's a black and white photograph, so it's no additional real detail. The kid doesn't look like he's in clothes befitting a person of means. It doesn't. Looking at Leticia and Rudy, they're both light-skinned people, so either they adopted a child or this is not their child. Perhaps Leticia had a partner and had children by them before she met Rudy. all of these are possibilities.
But mental math, they've only been married 2 years. Does the child fall into, I mean, even if she was pregnant at their wedding, so it's glancing from this photo to the wedding picture,
Well,
which
and-
obviously can be altered because, you know, pregnancy before marriage in the 30s.
But-
There's a lot of mental math going on there.
Well, and then you check the date on the photograph because it is notated in the corner, and it does. You don't even have to pry it loose of the frame. This photo is from about 6 years ago. Leticia has been living here for 6 years. You want to talk about a faux pas? Having a single woman live in a single man's house for 6 years?
How long has Rudy been gone from the hometown?
Since you were all about 13, 14 years old, so about 11 years ago.
So they had to have met sometime in like the 5 years after.
You would assume. And it's, you kind of notice that as you're being kind of led up the stairs. And when you get to the top of the stairs, a young boy comes running past, chasing a ball that he tossed down the hallway. Curly, dark hair. It seems to be that boy in the picture maybe grew up a little bit. He looks about 9, maybe 10. Constance kind of scolds after him. Ambrosius Jones. You be careful where you're playing with that ball in this house, boy, unless you want a real good whooping. And he kind of smiles back over his shoulder. Sorry, Mama. Just chases after the ball.
That's your kid?
Well, yes, that is my dear Ambrosius.
Sweet kid. If you don't mind me asking, where's the father?
Oh, I do quite mind you asking. She smiles.
I'm
and just,
studying her expression.
You've seen the fierce look of a mother, and this is that. This is I'm asking you politely to back off.
Sure.
It's that very veiled southern charm. As she smiles and just kind of inclines her head in deference. As she guides you to 3 of the guest rooms here in the upstairs of the house. They're all quite fine, especially for our good detective, way above the means you're used to living in. Silk sheets, feather mattresses, feather pillows.
I think seeing that is also gonna add on to the weight of tiredness that she's still feeling.
Yeah. Art and decor that is worth, just in this room, detective, the art and decor is probably 7 years worth of your salary. And that's if you didn't have the vices that you have.
I can't. Rudy's a friend. I'm happy for him.
But as you're each guided to your rooms, Constance says, well, I will let the lady of the house know that you're here. Do you require any refreshments? Have you eaten this evening, my darlings?
No, I can't say that we have. We didn't stop for anything on the way in.
Well, I'll have some supper sent up. We had a lovely roast pheasant with the gooseberry sauce, and some fine mashed potatoes and collard greens with ham hocks. I'll have it sent up right for you, all right?
That does sound quite good, yeah.
I'm gonna have to give my tailor a visit when I get back.
Oh, you might have to hire yourself a new tailor now, so we gonna feed you well. She giggles and heads off on her way to go let the lady of the house know that you've arrived. Gives you all a moment to get settled in your rooms and then convene together again if you would like.
So as a note, she's always going to be carrying that suitcase with her. She's not leaving it in the room. She's not letting it get out of her sight.
I'll keep the suitcase in my room, but whenever we go to see Rudy, I would bring the medical bag with me.
And are you all convening together after you get settled in your rooms, or?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna be convening, but I think on my way to convene, I'm gonna like take the long way, so to speak, and kind of just like get more of the air of this place.
Sure. And I mean, your rooms are all kind of next to each other,
Oh,
so there's
nice.
really no like long way about it.
Sedatives back then, powder or injected?
Some are injected, and I would say you probably also have a few doses of chloroform, morphine, chloroform, laudanum. All of these things would be a part of your repertoire. In fact, low dose chloroform was often used to alleviate a generalized anxiety.
Before she leaves her room, she's gonna slip a couple syringes of sedative into her pocket. Just so she has them. And then she's going to move. I'm assuming chloroform still comes in a bottle or is in a bottle.
Yeah.
She's going to move a bottle of chloroform and a rag into a small clutch. And then a couple more doses of sedative into that. The bag that she had, she's going to tuck up into the closet, like in the back on a shelf.
Sure.
And put a couple things in front of it so that she would know if someone was in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
And then she'll keep her clutch with her. So she has the sedative, like 4 doses of sedatives and the bottle of chloroform with the rag on her before she makes her way out to go meet up with everyone else.
Yeah.
She's a little nervously paranoid here.
Sure.
My
So,
suitcase is basically just clothes. I've got all my important stuff in the medical bag.
As it usually is with Centennial homes like this, all of your rooms, like the room before going into your bedrooms, is a common chamber. So there are tables, there are a few bookshelves. There's surprisingly, even in this Prohibition era, you see that there is a crystal decanter with some amber liquid and a few glasses on a side table. Just openly displaying alcohol. But that's
Okay.
for men of means, this isn't uncommon at all. And there's another chandelier in this room that lights it, as well as a few gas lamps on the walls. You all reconvene in this sort of circular common room.
With the decanter and glasses, do we know if it would be a faux pas to pour yourself?
Oh, certainly not. This is a guest chamber. Your guests are made to feel at home. So.
Yep. No. The second Jeanette sees that, she's going to walk right over to it and pop it open, give it a good smell, because Lord knows how long it's been since she smelled like actual good alcohol.
And what you smell is a fine Scotch whiskey.
Oof. Oof.
I would be careful with that if you're going to drink it.
Do I smell anything foul mixed in with it?
No.
No apricots.
But also, Scotch has quite a strong smell, so
Yeah.
it would be hard to tell. You certainly don't see any like residue sitting on the bottom of the bottle or anything.
Gotcha.
Which is a good enough note.
I think it's safe enough. I don't see anything, any of the telltale signs. And then she's going to pour herself a glass. I think that's even part of maybe even lying to herself a little bit, because this is an opportunity she ain't gonna pass. So she's gonna pour it, and then obviously, because you don't shoot scotch, sip scotch. So she's going to she's just going to like do a little swirl and
Tastes delightful. I think the other things of note in this room would be there is a deck of cards on one of the tables. There's a cigar box in the middle of one of the tables. And particularly, I think, maybe for the good doctor. As you kind of look around, you see on one of the other side tables a rather small box. Now, given your age, I don't think you would have served in the Great War.
No.
But I do think you would have learned medicine from someone who did. And your professor at the collegiate level, you always noticed he carried a small box like this around with him. Affectionately referred to as a snuff box. Snuff, of course, if you know what it is, you know what it is. I'm not going to violate any Twitch guidelines here. But it was often the tool of choice to keep a man focused on his work while enduring long hours. And you see that there's a small pipe next to the snuff box as well.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna pour myself a glass of that scotch, and well, I mean, we're here, so can't let a good pipe go to waste.
Is there any conversation you wish to have?
I don't think from Jeanette. No, at least not right now. Not in a moment. She's kind of just contemplating everything that she's seen and heard, and kind of just more wanting to see Rudy at this point.
Seems like Rudy's doing quite well for himself.
It would appear. Are you two gonna stay sober?
Oh, but of course.
I'm always sharp.
Overtired and alcohol are such a great mixture.
Well, see, this stuff here will keep me awake for as long as necessary.
Okay.
And it's at that the door to the common room opens. And you see Leticia. It's always interesting seeing someone in a black and white photo and then seeing them in the real for the first time. She is quite tall, thin, lithe, almost avian features. She is gorgeous. Her hair is this Audrey Hepburn brown that hangs to about her mid-back. She wears a deeply V-cut evening dress that is truly missing the entirety of the back down to the small of her back. It just has the two pieces of fabric that come down to meet at the waist. Very untraditional cut, very avant-garde for this time. To show so much skin, especially in the presence of strangers, let alone a strange man, as she enters the room. You must be my handsome Rudy's friends.
And you must be his lovely wife.
Smiles. Please forgive us for taking this long to invite you here. Rudy always speaks of you so fondly, but with his work, we're always so busy.
What is he doing for work now?
My husband is something of an entrepreneur. Knowing that you share close bonds of kinship with dear Rudolph, I trust that you could keep his business discreet, despite your entanglements with the law. And she looks directly to you, Jeanette.
My lips are sealed.
You see, when Prohibition came about, we saw that there would be a market for alcohol, and we used what little savings we had to open a small speakeasy. And eventually it did so well that we opened another, and another, and another, and so on and so forth.
Suddenly the money makes sense. It seems to be that would math right for me, like as a
for
person.
sure.
And I think
Prohibition has been rocking around for 11 years at this point. So this certainly tracks with 11 years in knowing how much you spend on booze, and you're just one person. This, as disgusting as it seems, this growth of wealth tracks.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So there's kind of like a little bit of a look of recognition that's coming about her, and she's gonna lean down, other glass still in hand, and kind of reach into her boot and pull out the flask. And she's like, "I have no room to talk."
Well, I hope you mean that literally. Please. I've... You would like to see dearest Rudy, I imagine.
Yes, please. If you kindly.
I
Can
must...
you tell us what happened?
Insofar as what I understand to have happened, yes.
You weren't with him?
And you see, she looks a little upset, the asking. Not upset like angry, but a little guarded. Fearful, maybe, would be the right term. No, we were together, but I was looking away, picking some flowers from the hedge, and I heard something hit the ground, and I turned and looked, and it was my dearest Rudolph. I called out for help, and of course our body man, Roderick, who I assume that you met at the gate.
Yes.
Picked up poor Rudy and carried him home.
And this was in the garden here?
No, F.H. Montague Park. You must understand, two summers ago, routine visit to the physician, my dear Rudolph was diagnosed with the wasting disease. We were always told that exercise and fresh air would help him. Is this not the case, Doctor?
So, just for my knowledge here, this would, I would imagine, would be something that I know at least the general bits about, or is it
absolutely? The wasting disease is an anatomical disease. It's cancer.
Ah, okay. Oh, yeah. Well, yes, that certainly can assist, but unfortunately, it doesn't always eliminate the symptoms. It can help alleviate them, but they can still persist.
Hope there is some end to his suffering. He's suffered for quite some time.
I see. Now, I know you said recently his condition has deteriorated, but is he still communicating?
Only in writing. In fact, I've never heard Rudolph speak. In the 6 years that I've known him, he's only ever written.
Oh.
That's very strange for all of you. Rudy was a very gregarious kid. He always had stories to tell, and, everything was pomp and dance and theater for him. Any chance to get up on a soapbox and talk, he'd take it. He was a yapper from way back.
That doesn't sound like him in the slightest. He used to speak more than any of us combined.
Yes.
That is what he has conveyed to me in his writing.
May we see him?
Of course. Please, come with me. And she leads you out of this wing of the home, and to the wing across the house, which appears to be the master suite. And leads you into the bedroom. Large, beautiful 4-post bed, with sort of red and gold velvet curtains, which surround it. This room is gorgeous. See, in here, you all spot one memento from your childhood. A baseball that you had been playing ball with, throwing it around, and Rudy missed a catch and it went through the glass window of his childhood home, and He caught a pretty severe punishment for that one, but despite the bruises about him, he brought that ball out the very next day, and the fear of that punishment never really got to him. And you see Rudy laying in the bed, although certainly not as you remember him. He looks wizened, old. His hair's turned gray. There are lines and creases about his face that shouldn't be there except for a man twice his age. This doesn't look anything like your friend Rudy. I mean, the facial features are there. The color of the eyes is the same. Even as you see as those eyes regard you as you come in, that crooked twinge of a smile that Rudy always had when he would see you guys for the first time in a day. Something severely wrong has happened to him. He looks like a man in his 60s, not a man entering his 30s.
I think there's like a sad look that's like crossing Jeanette's otherwise hardened expression. I was just gonna say, without like, at least not without like saying a word, she's kind of like gonna move up to his side and kind of just like look down on him, not staring, not studying, and gazing on somebody that she grew up with that she hasn't seen in so many years now.
Kind of reaches up very weakly and just puts his hand on your shoulder and rubs a little circle.
I think she's gonna reach up and place her hand on his.
Kind of pulls his hand away from your shoulder and points to the side table, where you see that there's a pencil and a pad of paper.
I think in that moment she's gonna, like, she's. I might have missed it. Did you already describe like his neck as his vocal cord, like the area just around where his vocal? Is there any visible damage from the side?
Not a bit.
He's gonna go over and grab the pencil and paper, bring it back to him.
And you see he writes with that same flowery script he always writes, and that at least hasn't changed. His penmanship is excellent. He writes to you all, "It's so wonderful to see you all again. I've missed you." And then it says, "Dylan, you've gotten fat." And he smiles.
Oh. I would say you could afford to gain a few pounds.
He just writes, "If I could buy them for myself, I would, old friend."
Now, looking him over, just from, like, taking some time to just casually observe him, from everything I'm seeing, does anything seem out of place with how he looks and the conditions that we know him to have?
Yes,
Like,
very much out of place.
Okay, yeah.
This whatever aged him doesn't have anything to do with the disease he has. I mean, if his hair was maybe a little bit thinner, but it's not. I mean, if there were, random bruising and contusions on his body, that would make sense, but there aren't.
Jeanette's gonna reach into her pocket and pull out the lapel pin that we found in the park. We found this. I believe it's yours.
Nods. Just writes, "Thank you." And he continues to write, "In the morning, a lawyer will be here. I need you all to witness the reading of my last will and testament. And I need a favor. God forgive me for the asking of it."
With the training that she would have had, the schooling she would have to go to study the mind, does any of this seem normal to her? to Lillian.
You know, it reflects on something that you were just reading this morning. If there is a relationship between sleep and dreaming that is restorative to the body, if he's not dreaming, and he hasn't been for the last however many years he's lived here, if his body's not healing, it's possible that, because what is accelerated age but your body not being able to heal as fast as it used to, right? If there is some relationship between dreams and healing and his body can't keep up on top of his diagnosis, it's shoestrings and threads that might not have something connecting them, but it is something that you've postulated on. And I wonder if our good alienist would find that to be suspicious or not. Do coincidences exist for the good alienist, I wonder?
Where is his wife in the room?
She's as is common for rooms of sick folk at this point. When other people visit, there's a waiting chair in the corner of the room where she is sitting.
So Lillian's gonna walk up and she's going to perch herself on the bed, her back to the wife, and lean down enough to whisper to Rudy, "When is the last time that you slept?"
I'll write down, I can't remember.
Am I close enough to hear the question?
Sure. I would say you're all close enough, being kind of clustered around the bed.
I'm denoting I would like to denote or at least like mentally note the answer, and then mixing it with my knowledge of what Lillian already said to us earlier. Gotta file everything away.
And he writes down for you all. Again, ending the last phrase he wrote with, "I need a favor, but God forgive me for the asking of it." Says, "This task, my old friends, simply put, is to go to my collegiate fraternity house and recover for me the Amber Emperor. It is an Egyptian relic, an insect encased in amber, for which I invested a significant amount of funds, and I would like to see some amount of return on this investment. I must warn you that the fraternity has been disbanded nearly 7 years after the events of 1926 and the death of that Summerfield boy. In return for your services, I am willing to entrust to each of you 1/5 of my accumulated wealth."
Okay, Rachel's freaking out. Jeanette herself is kind of just going narrow-eyed at that. I'm gonna say, why is it worse?
And he writes, "Cannot leave my business unfinished, and I cannot allow this to happen to someone else."
There's something you're not telling us.
You never were the best of us at keeping secrets.
Landergan.
Kind of looks to you, Lillian. And he writes out, "Bladergaunt." And just underlines it.
Is such a name? A place?
No, it's what I told you about.
And he writes, "A thing, comma, a thing that shouldn't be."
This is not the second person Jeanette trusts that is mentioned.
And with that, I would like for each of you to make me a roll plus reason, please.
2 5s, 10 plus 2, 12.
So with a 10, would you like to take one forward? Would you like to ask the GM a question? Or would you like to get something else of the GM's prerogative?
I am a big fan of GM prerogative.
Okay, fair enough.
I got a 10 as well.
Perfect. So would you like to carry one forward? Would you like to ask me a question? Or would you like something of my prerogative?
I, too, am a fan of your prerogative, so I'm going to go with that.
Perfect. And finally, our good alienist.
Oh, 14.
Ooh.
Fair enough. Would you like to carry one forward? Would you like to ask me a question? Or would you like something of the GM's prerogative?
I'm going to go with the GM's prerogative.
Perfect.
3 for 3.
Then here is what happens in very short succession. We'll start with the good alienist. As you look at it, the way he phrased it, a thing, something that should not be. It's a nice home with nice things. It looks very sanitized. And a fly lands on the paper and then flies off. And as your eyes kind of follow it, see that there are, just kind of out of purview, dozens of flies in this room. Crawling on the ceiling, sticking in corners. For a place this clean, that feels wrong. For our good doctor. As you read that line again, a thing that should not be. I like to think you're a very reasonable man, Doctor. Your friend is very sick, and sicknesses of the body can do strange things to the mind, so you've been led to believe by your friend, the good alienist. Whatever this emotional distress that your friend is in, this fear, does not creep its way into your heart. But what you do see on this bedside table is a drug he certainly does not need. It is a drug to induce sleep. And if he hasn't slept in God knows how long, why is that here? And I'll let you ponder that. And as the door opens, and Constance comes in with a glass of water and a tray that has a few pills. She sits it down on the bedside for Rudy. Good detective, you notice that as she leans over and the frock kind of comes forward a little bit. As Constance leans forward, you see one of the buttons on her dress doesn't match the others. The others match the button that's in your pocket. And she sets the glass down. She helps Rudy with the pills. She helps him drink the water.
Before she starts to try to give him the pills, is there any way that Lillian can just go, I'll do that. I'll take care of it for him.
Well, would you like to roll me a convince, please? And I do believe you have a move that lets you roll convince with different stats, if I'm not mistaken.
Could I assist with this roll?
My roll plus affinity, when you have something someone wants, you can use your charm, wit, or wiles to get them to do something for you first. Is that what you're talking about? The basic move?
No.
I have empathetic. I can use roll plus passion to convince.
Yes, that's it. So
okay.
Instead of rolling affinity, you roll passion.
Could I assist with this roll?
if you would like to use the help, which is your roll plus trust. Yep. So go ahead and make your roll plus trust first, and that'll determine how much extra you're also going to add, Lillian. Wow.
14.
Perfect.
A
So,
6 and a 5 there, so close to a double
so
six.
would you like to carry one forward? Would you like to ask me a question, or do you want something in the GM's prerogative?
Oh, I love the prerogative one, so I'm gonna go with that again.
Perfect. Okay, Lillian, you are going to add an additional 3.
16 plus 3 would be 19.
19. That's almost twice of a critical success. Perfect. Would you like to carry one forward, something of the GM's prerogative, or would you like to ask me a question?
We're going GM's prerogative.
Wild. Y'all are putting way too much trust in me with this game. So,
Well, no, that
I
makes
trust
it
she's a
fun.
storyteller. It does make it fun. It means that you can give us twists.
Right.
So here's what happens. And I'll go through each of these by character. So we'll start with the good doctor. How are you helping in this situation? Describe to me the way you're helping Lillian convince Constance that she can deliver his medication to him.
So I'm going to step forward. Yes, we can take care of it. I am a doctor after all. And Rudy here is a good friend of ours. We haven't seen in quite some time. I think we're quite capable. And you've done so much as it is. It's the least we can do to thank you for your hospitality.
So she is going to acquiesce to this request. The extra that I'm going to give you for this good doctor is you didn't catch that protectiveness in her eyes when she kind of clapped back at Jeanette about Ambrosius. But you clock that same fierce defensiveness in her eyes in regards to Rudy. Before she smiles and saying to both of you, "Oh, well, that would be mighty fine. I'm sure Mr. Eichner would appreciate the ministrations of his trusted companions." And what you clock with that, Lillian, and I think you equally as much clock it in the way that Rudy is looking at her. There's an intense bond between these two people. Whether that is amorous or not is kind of up in the air. You would assume that these two are in love with each other based off of your studies of, mostly people who are obsessed with other people. These two have a very strong bond. You alienists aren't quite to the point where they're doing couples counseling, but you've been diagnosing people by their facial features on the street for some time, and you've seen the look of love between two people who really love each other, and you're pretty sure you just clocked it here. She sets down the tray and smiles and leaves the room. And not to put too fine of a point on this, this is 37 years between Loving v. Virginia. And I think that... Do I need to clarify that for anyone?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Loving v. Virginia is the court case that made cross-racial marriages legal.
Ah, okay.
Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just put 2 and 2 together.
These are the things that you have observed as Constance leaves the room.
Can I follow her?
If you'd like, sure.
Yeah, I think this is just kind of like, this is something that both Dylan and Lillian are gonna just know about her if they've ever seen her on a job, but Dean is like all of a sudden snapped into work.
Sure. So you follow Constance out. And for those of you who remain in the room, because we'll stay in that scene for a moment before we shift focus, Rudy just writes on the pad of paper, "Brothers in Aeternum." The house is outside of town. Please be safe.
Lillian is going to try to palm those pills and not give them to him. She'll make it look like she is, but she's keeping her body, because her back is still to Leticia. She's keeping her body in the way so that it looks like she's giving them to him.
Sure.
And then she's going to whisper to him, "We're going to make this better."
He just writes, "This can't keep happening. We have to dream again." And he just finishes by writing, "I will not lose anyone else unto the void."
Dylan, shouldn't he be in the hospital? Wouldn't that be better for him at this point, to be in a hospital?
In all honesty, yes. The facilities there, the medication, the staff, and the experience that they have. And
He will write out very quickly, "Too much proximity to infectious diseases. I can just hire better doctors to come here. I have the means."
Except for the fact that the people that are here are the ones trying to kill you.
I think with that, we will shift focus very quickly out to the hallway. As Constance is moving down the hallway a little bit ahead of you.
I'm going to follow her for a couple of paces. I want to see where she's going. If she's not noticing me.
She hears you behind her and she'll stop. "Is there something I can do for you, darling?"
Miss Constance, I just wanted to apologize for my abruptness earlier. It's an affliction of my personality. I come off harsh and brash to those.
Are you sure it is not an affliction of your occupation, my darling?
Both can be true.
Mr. Eichner has told me quite a bit about your work in particular.
You know, be very close with it. I'm glad that my friend had such a close confidant.
I am his housekeeper, and with his sickness, the house needs quite a sum of keeping, especially considering that Mrs. Eichner does not spend many nights at home. It is quite frankly a miracle that you caught her here.
Does she not? Where does she normally go?
Well, with Mr. Eichner's sickness, someone must tend to the business.
Fair enough. And she does seem quite capable for herself.
She is quite adroit in her work, yes. Excuse me?
Adroit? I don't know the word,
Yes.
sorry.
Dexterous. Finesse. Adroit.
When she says adroit, is she saying that with that sharpness?
Yes.
Forgive me. You know my occupation quite a bit more about me than I know about you, probably. But it sounds like you don't really have much of an actual fondness for her.
I'm afraid I don't take your meaning, darling.
There was a bit of sharpness there to the word. It sounded like there was more you wanted to.
What I want to say and what I may are two entirely different things, my dear.
The walls may have ears at times, but right now, just you and I. She says as she's looking around.
Oh no, darling, I am the ears in the wall, trust me. There are things that I will not say.
I think in that moment she's going to take a couple steps closer. As she does that, is there any reaction, Constance?
You see her hands reflexively move behind her back.
That? Well, if you must know, I do believe I have found something of yours. And she's going to reach into her pocket pull out the button, gonna offer it, and she's gonna say, I don't care about a lot of things. It is good that my friend has.
I thank you kindly. She takes the button and puts it in the pocket of her frock.
But I have to ask, why were you in the park with Rudy and not Leticia?
Well, now, that button could have fallen off at any point in that park. Who's to say that I was not taking a walk all by my lonesome and happened to get snagged up on a tree branch or a shrubbery or something?
Because it was right next to where I found his lapel pin.
Well, stranger coincidences happen every day, dear detective.
I am studying her face, her words. Is there anything that I notice? Any tick? Any...
Sure, go ahead and give me a read a person roll. Roll plus passion.
9 + 1, 10.
Would you like to carry one forward? Would you like to have something from the GM, or would you like to ask me a question?
5 guesses. Which one would it be?
I have to ask every time, and I need you to say it.
I will say GM discretion.
Perfect. She is certainly being defensive. She's on the back foot right now. And though her face does not belie any of this, it seems she's practiced at concealing her facial tells. You could hear her tone bordering on sharpness. That is that same veiled southern hospitality covering up defensiveness. And what I will give you is, as you're having this conversation, Ambrosius runs up from behind her and wraps his arms around her waist. And she smiles and looks down and kind of runs her fingers through his hair. And you see on his finger is a little cheap tchotchke shop ring that Rudy used to wear when you were kids. Somewhere between 8 and 11. Now, if you don't mind, ma'am, I do have to put this rowdy little one into his bed for the evening.
Of course, I completely understand how rowdy kids can get. To offer a nod of her. But she's going to, this is going to be creepy, but she's studying, she's going to watch constantly.
And she puts her arm around Ambrosius' shoulder and walks him down to the downstairs bedrooms, the servants' rooms.
Just for my edification, because my brain fried a little bit. Was my connection is my connection something that we can soundly say is probably correct? He had a teenage boy with her kid.
Who's to say? You'll have to put that together for yourself. You could assume that is the thing.
Like, there's always, I guess I should say, maybe this might be asking a little too much, but I'm pretty sure as a detective I'm used to profiling people. Is on Ambrosius, did I notice anything physically that would have linked him? Like shape of nose, shape of eyes, color of eyes, anything that would have...
He has the same eye color as Rudy. Sort of light green.
I think that's it.
So for those of you that are still in the room. He just writes, I think you should retire for the evening, if you can.
So, when he writes this, does he seem off? Like he almost seems concerned, or like a...
Certainly seems concerned. You can see it in his eyes and in the way that he looks at the both of you.
I'd like to lean in a little closer. And this would be more of a whisper so that people further away would have a much harder time hearing us if they're able to at all. But certainly don't want them to. What are you not telling us, friend?
He just writes, the fraternity. We were an occult society. I will have Leticia bring you what information I can.
Do you really trust this woman? None of this makes any sense. You started getting sick when you met her. She said you hadn't spoken in years since you met her. Yet she knows everything about us. How? We haven't seen you for 11 years, 12 years, but you know exactly what we're all doing. How?
And he just writes out, I may not be able to speak, Lily, but I do hear things. And then he writes, more than you could ever know, I trust Leticia with all of my heart. She saved my life more than once, and I hope she can save yours too.
And your housekeeper?
His eyes kind of darken a little. How do you mean?
Which one truly holds your heart? Which one's had your child?
I think at that point it is safe for Jean to re-enter the conversation.
Quite a good point, in fact.
He just writes, Leticia will explain everything.
So Leticia knows that that's your kid.
See, Leticia's still sitting in the corner of the room. So you don't have to
shit.
talk about me. You don't have to talk about me like I'm not here.
I forgot the shoes.
We can discuss the finer points of our marriage. Perhaps over a glass of wine before bed. Does that sound lovely? And Rudy waves her over and writes a few things down. And she takes the paper, nods. Yes. Take some time to have your supper. It seems I need to head to the library to gather a few things, and then we'll talk when I return. Please, follow me. And she takes you back to your common quarters, where a few moments after, the bell for the dumbwaiter rings, and 3 plates of this supper are sitting in the dumbwaiter, warm. And you're free to have a meal for an hour or so together. Is there anything in specific you would like to discuss before the company of just the 3 of you is interrupted?
Mostly it's just mechanical, I guess, in nature. Just Jeanette actually asking them what she missed, play or heard.
Sure. Any other conversation need to be held?
I'm going to make sure that they know about the flies that I noticed and make it a point of, this house is so clean, why are there so many flies? And she's going to hand the doctor the pills that she palmed. She's like, I didn't give these to him. What is this?
Yeah, I have 2 questions at this point. Sure. The flies, did I notice any of those while we were in there?
You did not.
Okay.
I assume neither did I.
Nope.
Okay.
No, Lillian's just crazy.
For these pills, what can I discern from these?
Go ahead and give me a puzzle things out. Roll plus reason.
Total of 10.
Then I have to ask the question.
Prerogative.
Okay. All right. So, this is what you can garner from the pills. All of these seem to be in regiment with the drugs that are being given to people who have the wasting disease. Save for one. You're not quite sure what it is. You would need probably the evening to conduct some little experiments on what it could be. But one of these pills is, one of these things is not like the other.
Yep. One of these things just doesn't belong.
Yeah, precisely. And it's a little green pill.
Am I able to, do I know what that pill is? Is it something that I've seen used in general practice, or?
No.
No.
You have no idea what this thing is.
What about me?
You, on the other hand. I think you might, actually. This is a strange mix of chemicals. This is something that is used in psychiatric treatment. It is a mix of phenobarbital, which is, of course, a barbiturate, which is meant to keep the body docile and essentially immovable. It also has a low-grade psychotropic. It seems that perhaps this is some misguided attempt to enable sleeping and dreaming. To kind of force it upon the body. For a fact, though, any amount of phenobarbital bigger than this dosage is, while used to aid in things like electroshock therapy and hydrotherapy, is not generally recommended for someone who is of sound mind.
Lovely. So realistically, where do we start? We start with the fact that he wants us to get an amber insect. We start with the fact that they're medicating him incorrectly. He trusts them explicitly for no valid reason. And this house is a fortress because of his business. These pieces don't fit.
And on that note, you mentioned the medication. The question of why.
The thing of GM's prerogative that I will give you is just that whoever is making these pills for him is an accomplished druggist. Phenobarbital is generally a liquid. Being able to get it to incorporate with a powdered substance, this is someone who should be a pioneer in the field of druggism. So he at least was being forthright with the idea that he can hire better doctors and druggists than are at most hospitals. That's obvious.
How do we even know that these people are...
If they're incorrectly giving him this medication, whether that be through actually giving it to him or prescribing it and directing its use, why?
And why has it taken her 6 years to bring us here?
Have any of you considered the fact that, considering what you just told us about this medication? Forgive me, maybe I'm just jaded by my profession, and stories, but could one of them be poisoning Rudy? Keeping him docile, sticking in a worse case than
It's not unheard of.
But this incident in 1926 with the Summerfield boy, what is that? Why does he want this this Egyptian insect so bad, and does it come from there? There's too much. I said one word, and he knew what I meant. He knew what I was talking about. Something that took me hours upon hours of research to find through hundreds and hundreds of clippings and reading a madman's journal. But I said one word, and he knew what I was talking about.
There's more pieces to the puzzle than no.
Now,
I think it's fair to point out, and really to ask in this moment, Lillian, did you bring your book of clippings with you?
Yes, it's in the bag, which is why she basically put things in front of her bag when she put it up in the closet to know if someone was in there.
When reflecting on that, like you hear in your mind that Summerfield boy and the date 1926. There's an itch on your brain. You know for a fact you have a clipping about that. You know it.
She's running out of the room real quick. She's like, "Hold on," and runs out of the room.
That's probably got all the bases covered that we need for that. But as a player, I was going to ask if there was anything that ever crossed my desk that would have.
Do you think you were working with the police department 4 years ago?
I mean, father was a cop before he died, so I assume I still got some connections. I probably used that to get some jobs too.
Sure. You guys are from a little over 100 miles away. I'm not sure if it would have... Word would have got around about the name Sommerfeld. But exactly what happened, I think your dad would have spoken of it in hushed whispers and would have tried to keep you as far away from it as possible.
Got you. That makes sense. So I assume I just know that it was a case that associated with that name, but I just don't know any.
Sure.
All right, and sorry. I was just gonna say, I imagine I may have heard it in the newspaper, but never really looked into it. It was just more like, oh, blah blah blah. There's a headline there, and then I went on about my day.
So you go for the book.
Yep. Because while she's grabbing the book or trying to get the book, she's starting to remember other things she read.
Sure.
So,
the first thing you know is that nothing in your room has been tampered with. As you check, everything is where you left it. Nothing is out of place. And you grab your book of clippings, bring it back out as you're flipping through it. And it takes you a minute or two, but you do find the page with the Sommerfeld clippings. And it seems to corroborate the information that that Rudy is talking about. And you also see that so before I get too far into it, that it refers to an event that happened there, that this is the second event at the Brothers in Aeternum fraternity house in the last 10 years. But as to the regards of the Sommerfeld incident, one boy, Ian Sommerfeld, murdered the rest of his fraternity brothers. And it seems that he tried to burn down the fraternity house, but the firefighters managed to put it out. That repairs were being made and a new owner had purchased the house. An owner by the name of Rudolf Eichner.
So she's sharing all of that with them, but then she's going to set that aside for them to look at. She's grabbing the journal and she's digging through it to the point of the journal where he was talking about the corpses being dragged away, following it to the den, the tales of the children being dragged away to them being impaled on the roots of trees, and how that led her to the Bladergaunt, and how they're all tied together. At least that's what she thinks.
Yeah, in this moment, truly, I feel a moment of vulnerability for Lillian, kind of letting your childhood friends into this fixation that you've had for so long, that began as wanting to study the mind and slowly devolved into less trying to study the mind and more trying to study the insanity.
Yeah, well, she's pretty sure they're not going to understand, and she's going to have to explain. But
all of this is laid out before you.
Jeanette may not understand a lot of the terminology and a lot of like the mental side of a lot of this, but correct me if I'm wrong. This looks very similar to even how she herself puzzles out like jobs that she's on.
Sure.
And
there's a form and function to each piece of, evidence, even if the evidence is of something that may exist wholesale within the mind. There are pieces and parts that make sense. This journal could be attributed to a first-hand witness's account. Like you can see how one would formulate the idea that there was a logical connection here, potentially.
I would then like to posit something with the help of Jeanette's mind when it comes to putting clues together for anything, and Lillian's penchant for the mentals. Could I persuade for a poke around roll or a puzzle things out roll to find something putting our minds together?
I would say that one person can make that roll and the other two people can make help rolls if you would like to really combine your efforts here.
My roll with both of those is really fucking good, y'all.
Who would like to roll to puzzle it out?
I would.
Well, rolling to puzzle it out means you're going to be the primary rolling.
Oh, I'd like to assist.
Okay, that would be a help roll.
Yeah.
I want to do a help roll.
Help. Okay. So I want both of you to roll 2d6 plus your trust with Jean.
Is it their trust or my trust?
No, their trust towards you.
Good. So this is kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, there's a part, like, Jean's worried. There's a part of Jean that's excited doing a case with her childhood friends.
Sure. I imagine this feels somewhat like the games you used to play, kids, for just a moment. So on your help rolls, Lillian, what was your roll?
10.
10. Perfect. Would you like to, I have to ask the question, carry one forward, my prerogative, or ask me a question? I will phrase it this way. When you choose the ask a question thing, I have to answer that question to your satisfaction.
Okay. Carry one forward again. Remind me what that does.
You can add one to your next die roll.
I think I'm actually going to ask you a question.
Great. Go ahead and do that now.
Okay. So, with everything that she has studied so far on all of this,
okay,
the insect description from the journal and all of that, they're, drinking the ability to sleep. Is there any way for her to know that this stupid Egyptian amber insect is tied to that, and somehow this thing coming into his life is the cause of his illness? Or is that too much? If it's too much, cut it down.
I think that this is how I will initially respond, and if there is a further inquiry, please let me know. I don't think there would be anything that could draw that this amber insect being involved, other than the association between the Bladergaunts having this insectoid appearance. I think that's that there is a thread there, but I don't know if you would be confident enough to like firmly connect that thread or not. As far as this thing coming into his life being what changed him, if you could just pinpoint when his fraternity got a hold of that, of this Amber Emperor, that would solve that question. If it is in a timeline you suspect it may be, he was getting ready to leave the collegiate arena 6 years ago. He hasn't spoken in 6 years. If his fraternity got a hold of that piece at that time, that would make sense. That would establish a timeline. What about it could rob him of his speech? That you're also unfamiliar with. Does that answer your question?
It leads to more questions, but that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
What was your role on the help, good doctor?
I got a grand total of an 11.
So I have to ask.
Yep. Again, I'm gonna go with the prerogative.
Okay.
For this one.
I'm gonna hold on to that for now.
Totally fine.
What are both of your trusts with Jean? 2 and 3. So you're gonna add a total of 5 to this.
That's crazy because I rolled 2 6s.
All right. Well, now we get into what's really fun about rolling a 12 on the dice. This what happens when you roll a 12 on the dice in Tremulus, my dear audience, is you gain dark insight.
Ooh.
So you're just off the rip, you're going to get 1 point of lore. You just add that as being what it is.
Okay.
So now I need to ask you, with your additional +5, what is the total of that roll for you?
12 plus that because that also includes my plus for reason, correct?
Correct.
That's +7 then. So
19. Perfect. Okay. So now I also have to ask you the same question I've been asking. My prerogative. Perfect. So here's the first thing I'm gonna do. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to ask you to please take 2 points of shock.
Ooh.
As you look over all of this and you're putting things together, Sommerfeld murder, this sextuple homicide, killed 6 of his fraternity brothers. Going back, looking into Rudy's time in that, trying to find a clipping in the clipping book from when Rudy was there, you find another octuple murder, where the survivor is not named, and one I would say, as you kind of look over that and you reach out and touch it, just kind of like trying to pick up the book and like read it a little closer, your field of vision fogs over, Jean, and you find yourself standing, and the environment around you is completely gray tones, and you see Rudy as you remember him, standing in front, like kneeling in front of this it looks like a little tiny farmhouse. It's got a little wooden sign nailed above the doors that says Brothers in Aeternum. And you see that there's smoke coming out of the windows. You can hear the ringing of a fire engine bell as it approaches, and you see Rudy covered in blood. and a knife in his hands and just tears streaming down his face before he looks up to you. You should not be here. You should not be here. And his eyes burst and flies come out, flying at you.
I think.
What you all see next is, for a minute, it just looked like maybe Jean was very focused in the writing. But Jean pushes away from the table, knocking the bottle of wine off the table. It shatters. Your book of clippings clatters to the floor. And the next thing you know, Jean, you're trying to you're backing away, trying to bat the flies away from you. And you feel yourself connect with something solid behind you as you're kind of shocked back into the now as you back into the bookshelf and several books fall off and clatter to the floor.
I would also like to add to that that's the first time you've ever heard Jean scream like that since she was a kid. Like, she doesn't scream like that.
Are you all right?
She's just gonna dart her eyes over to Rudy. What is he looking like right now? Oh no, we're not here. He's not here. Right.
Not in the room with you. But you do hear in your ear, you shouldn't be here.
I need to see him. I need to see Rudy right now.
No, you need to calm down first. What happened?
She's just going to start rambling off a recollection of what she's telling you everything. It's fast paced, it's very quick, and just rambling at points, but she's starting to inch her way towards the door.
The door will open, and you see that Rod is standing in the door. Everything all right in here? I heard yelling.
I need to see Rudy right now.
Mr. Agnes, at rest for the moment, and we tend not to disturb him under these hours.
This is not a question of just wanting to see him or not.
It's not, it's not a question for the master of the house. All right. And you see a very pale hand kind of comes around the back of his arm on his shoulder. And you hear Leticia's voice. Perhaps just give me a moment with our guests, dear cousin, and I'll get this sorted.
Is it the first time we're hearing that they're related?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a note.
And
can I interrupt and ask a question real quick, just so that I'm not off on a little mind tangent over here?
Absolutely, yeah.
What a mental fugue?
Hmm?
Would what Rudy is experiencing in a way partially be that?
Could be. It could be a psychosomatic manifestation of his trauma.
Well, I'm asking because I'm looking at my special moves and my lore move, so I'm trying to decide
you're asking me if you can help treat him in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
You are confident given time? Yes. Do you think you could do it in just a few treatments? Probably not.
Well, my lore move is different though.
Yes, your lore move is for so there is a difference between the shock that you take being healed quickly and shock that has sat for, let's say, 6 years.
Okay.
Right? So the things that have sat for a while take a little bit longer to heal. But do you think you could maybe, even in this finite time, coax a moment of clarity from him? It would not heal any of his points of trauma. Do you think you could coax a moment of clarity out of him? I would say that would be up to your confidence in your own skills to determine that. If you feel like you could do it, there's nothing stopping you from trying.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. And with that, Leticia kind of moves past Roderick. But she is not alone. She is not alone as she enters the room. A tall, beautiful woman with brown hair and very light green eyes, the same color, in fact, as Rudy's, enters the room behind her. And she gestures. She says, "Friends, I would like you to meet Angelica Eichner."
Oh.
And the woman smiles. "Hello, my name is Angelica. I am a cousin to Herr Eichner, Rudolf. He is mein Cousin, my cousin."
Here too.
Oh. You just got relatives popping out of the woodwork in this place while you're keeping secrets left and right.
And Leticia smiles and reaches out and takes Angelica's hand in hers. "There are certain farces which must remain in place so that our love is not punished by law. Not ours, and not Rudolph's."
There's a realization.
I see.
These arrangements must be what they must be.
Well,
for what
and
it's worth,
I do love him, Rudolph.
In my profession, we have something we refer to as patient-doctor confidentiality.
For what it's worth, you have my sympathy, what you've had to go through. But I'm also I think she's starting to stammer. Like, there's like a slight inclination that she's kind of jealous.
Now, I've gathered the information with Angelica that Rudy has asked me to bring you, and they each sit a few books down where it's essentially things going over the same things you found in your clipping book. You know, the events of what happened in both the Sommerfeld case and in the case where it does confirm that Rudy was the survivor. And there is a very brief, which I will type out in between things here, a brief first-hand account of Rudy's, of what happened, essentially the police report.
I see.
And just you understand, Angelica is the head librarian at the university, and therefore the annals of information there are open to your disposal should you need them.
I think more than the library being open to us would be an explanation as to why it's taken you this long to bring us here. Why he is the way he is. Why you're giving him phenobarbital and psychotropics. Why are you keeping him unable to do anything?
I assure you, Miss Freedman, The list of medications were asked for by him. I dabble not in the drugs he takes. If he is taking what you say that he is taking, it is of his request, not nonetheless his volition.
Given to him by who?
He hires a druggist.
Oh, Christ.
He also hires a physician. I tend to be busy with the business when he has his appointment.
Okay, but you claim to care about him, yet you're watching him deteriorate. So how can you do that?
He asked us not to ask you here. He didn't want you all to see him like this. I understand he was quite a vivacious child. I truly am sorry for what has happened to him. But it is not my fault, Miss Freedman.
You've allowed it to go on this long. So it is your fault. Everybody in this house is at fault for watching him die.
Sorry you feel that way. We have done nothing but respect his wishes.
What he wanted is what he wanted. I'd like to know that back from him. Seems we have one more.
If I may. I know things are a bit tense at the moment, but I know Rudy did want you here for the reading of his will and testament in the morning. I know that he refuses to have its validity recognized until it has the 3 of your signatures, and has placed a clause therein to ensure that that is the case. Our barrister is quite skilled at his job. So please, don't run off anywhere this evening. But as soon as the will is read in the morning, if there is any way that we can continue to be of assistance, ask, I beg of you, for Rudy's sake. And Angelica kind of looks over towards you, Lillian. Says, would you please forgive us? I don't think Rudy would want us crossed with each other. Not when he has so little time left, vielleicht. Once he is gone, you can continue being angry if you wish. God knows no one can steal your anger from you.
If you truly think that I'm going to sit here and continue to allow this to happen, you're insane.
Would expect no less of you, Miss Freedman. Perhaps you can finally get through to him that this is not the end. Would like my cousin back. She gives a very sharp-edged, bittersweet smile. And she and Leticia will leave the room. And that, dear viewers, surprise, surprise, we're going to have to do this in 2 parts. With that being said, we very much look forward to seeing you next time to finish this Tremulus tale to sleep, if not to dream. Happy time zone, and we'll see you on the next one.